Internets, you're tuned into the Combat Jack Show, the CombatJackShow.com. And as we usually say on the Combat Jack Show, this portion of the show has been sponsored and brought to you by Bevel, the superior shaving system. Listen, I'm going to go into my spiel later, but it's the best shaving system on the market for people that have coarse and curly hair. Go to getbevel.com, GETBEVEL.com. Punch in the promo code COMBAT, COMBAT, that's me, for 20% off all your purchases and services. That's getbevel.com. Use the promo code COMBAT, COMBAT. And now back to the show.
Get ready for combat. No escaping. Get ready for combat. Get ready for combat. Yeah. The Combat Jack Radio Show.
Internet, you're tuned into the Combat Jack Show, the CombatJackShow.com. What's up, Pete?
What's going on, Combat?
Man, you know, I can't call. It feels like it's been a long time since we've been in the studio,
It hasn't,
right?
though.
I mean, we booked our past two shows back to back. So last week was technically a week off.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel kind of like it was like a month, man.
You gave vacation. I like that.
Like, it wasn't vacation, but I just needed a break. Like, we've been putting shows out back to back to back to back, and they've been knocking it out the park, and they've been timely. And look who we have here right now, man.
Look at this.
Look, this is such an important week, an eventful week in American television. I'm saying we're watching an amazing and astounding Black American event transpire before our very eyes. And I'm just very happy to have on the Combat Jack Show somebody who's intrinsically involved with the success that is Empire, Combat Jack Show, Internets. Welcome to the Combat Jack Show, Mr. Malik Yoba. Yeah. Yo, what's up, Malik?
Y'all don't have like the background.
We can put that in.
No, all of this happens in we got post-production, man.
We got post-production budget?
Yeah, we got, actually, it's funny because our producer, Jonathan Mena, this is the only episode that he couldn't make it today because he's got some personal family drama kind of thing going on, but he's the best. What you hear when this drops today is going to be completely different from what you're hearing right now in the studio.
You'll have all the bells and whistles.
Yeah. So how you doing, sir?
I'm chilling. I'm happy to see you. Good to see you, man.
Likewise. It's been a while, right?
It's been a long time.
Yes,
well,
sir.
I see you on Instagram.
And you know what? I saw you at a bar, I think it was like about 3 or 4 years ago in Brooklyn, like in
That's
passing.
the last time we saw each other?
Yeah, because you know, you don't walk around with bodyguards.
No, sir.
High fancy Hollywood star like yourself.
Sir.
You're nice.
I live in Brooklyn, man. I'm not Hollywood.
Now, are you nice with your hands?
I was just on Myrtle Avenue just now.
Are you nice with your hands, Malik?
I used to be.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I talked my way out of situations.
Now, congratulations with Empire, man.
Thank you.
One of the things that I really enjoy about your role in Empire is you're a scary dude, man.
Am I?
Like when you put Homeboy in that headlock,
In the chokehold.
in the chokehold,
Yeah.
I was like,
Yoked him up.
Malik is not playing, B.
Yep. Yeah.
It's been
It had
20.
to happen.
It's been 20 years since you've been on something this major, man. How's it feel?
How does it feel? Well, it's been a little bit of deja vu for me. You know, I thought I was going to like a family reunion, but it turned into a funeral. So,
What do you mean by that?
well, you know, so yesterday, right, was the last episode
Okay.
of the season finale,
Yes.
right? And so we know what happened, right? Vernon goes bye-bye. So what felt like an opportunity to revisit the DNA of something that was the blueprint for radical television. New York Undercover 20 years ago was the first show in the history of television to be renewed past the first season, a dramatic series with people of color as the lead. Never before had that happen.
Right.
And so the DNA of that show was people of color, urban stories, music that was current, stars that were current. It was fashion that was current, topical issues that were current.
Yes.
And done in a way cinematically. It wasn't like straight television, you know. There was a lot
You
of
were working with one of the best, Dick Wolf.
Well, yeah, Dick Wolf was a producer on that, but it was handheld, shot handheld,
Right.
and so it created a certain aesthetic. And so that was a show that was killed before its time. I mean, it's, you know, that Empire is my 13th television series.
Wow.
So most people don't realize that. So the second show where I've been in a third show with a predominant cast of color. The last one was a show called Thief back in 2004. We did the pilot of that, and it ran on 2005, 2006 on FX. But that was short lived. We shot 12, or we were supposed to shoot 12. We only ended up shooting 6.
Right.
With Andre Brower and Yancey Arias, Latino, Clifton Collins was in that. So this for me was like down to the dude that shot the very first promo shots for New York Undercover, Michael Levine, who lives in Brooklyn. He shot the photos, the first production stills for New York Undercover 22 years ago,
Right.
21 years ago. He shot the first photos for Empire.
Wow.
So everything from executives at Fox that were there 20 years ago to in the PR department, the people that run the studio network used to run the studio back in the day. From Gladys Knight being on the show to Mary J. Blige,
Yes.
Naomi Campbell,
Which is so reminiscent
to
of
like Anthony Hemingway, the director who did Red Tails and who did episode 9. Anthony was 17 years old as a second PA, meaning or AD, meaning he's this, like the third in charge assistant director when he was 17.
Wow.
So he ended up going on to do The Wire and Treme and all kinds of stuff. So from Terrence was a guest star in New York Undercover.
Right.
You know, one of my favorite episodes, which was a Bonnie and Clyde episode. He was Robin Banks.
How was it working with Terrence back in the day, man?
Well, Terrence was always one of them dudes that was, you know, there's certain actors that have, you know, there's a darkness, there's grit, there's, you know, you know they've been through some stuff.
Right.
Their soul carries some weight to it. Philip Seymour Hoffman was one of the people.
Yes.
Robert Downey Jr.
Some gravitas.
Clifton. Yeah, there's just something about their life that comes through in their performance. And so back in the day, Terrence was that type of dude.
So you knew you could tell back in the day he had some.
Yeah, there's certain actors you meet, like, you know,
and
when I
the way
auditioned
he
for Cool
talks
Runnings,
with
like,
that grittiness.
yeah, he just has that thing. Jeffrey Wright had that. Jeffrey Wright auditioned for Cool Runnings.
Yes.
That's where I first knew Jeffrey Wright auditioning for Tupac auditioned for Cool Runnings.
That's crazy, and
Yeah.
I definitely want to get to that. So,
Yeah.
but it feels reminiscent. It feels like deja vu, man. But you know, it's such a big event. You're in so many more households now than you've been recently.
But not who, me?
Yes,
or the show?
you. I'm talking about you.
Yeah, I guess so. But see,
Because it's a phenomenon.
it is a phenomenon. But for me, it's been, you know, the reality is if you go back 20 years ago and look at the numbers that New York Undercover was doing, we were doing similar numbers.
Yes.
We were doing 13 to 15 million people a week.
Yes.
Well, now that's crazy, but relative to, you know, ER doing 29 million at the time or 32.
And was Seinfeld on? Were you guys running concurrent with Seinfeld?
We ran. It was called counter programming.
Okay.
Seinfeld was squarely mainstream network, NBC. Fox wasn't even a full network at the time,
right?
Because you had to have 13 hours of original programming to be considered a network. They only had 9, so and they didn't have the budgets to, you know, even do. I never saw a poster for New York Undercover. Never a billboard.
Yeah,
there was none of that stuff ever
crazy.
for New York Undercover. Yet, because it was relevant to a community, it resonated. And
it spoke to a unspoken to audience in a sense.
And so if we had social media then, it would have been the same kind of thing as Empire. So for me, it was deja vu the whole time. But at the same time, it wasn't, because the character was never really developed.
Right.
You know what I mean? So it's one of those things where I was like, word, scripts come out, you're like, really? There's like 3 lines here this week. It's, you know. So it wasn't, for me, something that creatively fed my spirit.
Right.
So I tried to focus on, all right, well, let me direct.
Right.
And they, you know, so they promised me I can direct second season. We'll see what happens. But I got at my company, Iconic 32.
Yes, and I definitely want to get to that.
Yeah, but that's the space I was in. I was like, all right, Iconic 32 is all about using pop culture to promote social goods. So using entertainment, sports, technology, you know, art, music, fashion. So I said, all right, this is a show that has all of those elements. And how do we build strategy around things that are important? Like last night for the season finale, we did a screening at Bounce here in New York on 21st Street, and did use it as a fundraiser to raise money for the prison to college pipeline program out of John Jay College. And I was down in Ferguson, Missouri, when I found out that my character was getting killed off in the 11th episode.
Right.
And we only did 12. So I didn't even know it was going down like that.
Right.
So I'm literally in Ferguson, like came back to my hotel, just set up a screening where I raised like $6,000, for the Urban League Save Our Sons program to provide work and job training for 500 under and unemployed black men. And Lee Daniels calls him, Leaky, sorry, they say, we're going to have to kill off Vernon. I'm like, word?
How does that feel, man?
Yo, that was crazy. That moment was bananas,
right,
because I love Lee.
Yes.
I definitely really enjoyed working on the show and saw a tremendous promise on what I could bring
right
to the show.
Balance. I mean, you would definitely balance to
what is balance from a character standpoint?
Right.
But honestly, like for me, because it is deja vu and New York Undercover, like I've had a chip on my shoulder for 20 years, meaning this was something that was killed before its time, and
right,
people will not let it go. There are people who still think we shoot that show.
If
you follow my Twitter feed,
what people believe? What kind of people? People with no TVs?
No, man. Yo, there are people. But see, this is the thing. When you are the subject,
yes,
when you're the talent and you walking around the world, you know what the audience wants. That's the beautiful thing about social media, is that it democratized the ability to communicate what people really want and feel and think.
Yes.
Direct to them.
Yeah, right to them. So people have been telling me forever, yo, bring that show back. Are y'all still shooting new episodes? Like, it is bananas, bro.
I'm trying to figure out, why do they think you're still shooting new? Where are you motherfuckers seeing new episodes?
Yo, New York Undercover has
is this in Central America?
No, it's not. No. It's not that the show has never been out of it may not be on the air right now, but Centric is running for years. That show has actually never really been out of syndication.
Right.
So it's always been on somebody's TV somewhere. And because people felt connected to it, they felt like, is it coming back? Are there going to be more? Maybe it's sometimes they see you and they don't know what to say.
Right.
So people, show coming back. That's Malik Yoba. But how did I feel? That was your question. What it felt like, it felt a bit surreal because I literally had just left the radio station where the DJ was like, yo, man, how do you stay so humble? Like, here you are, you down here in St. Louis. You don't live here. You're down here in the community. Like, no one really even knows you're here. And I think I'm a big deal as like a local DJ, but you've done X, Y, Z, blah, blah, blah. And I just said, look, man, I'm a servant. This is why I do what I do. It's never been about fame. It's never been about money. It's been about how does my life represent light in the world? How do I encourage and inspire somebody just by doing what I do and being where God wants me to be? So that's always been my thing. And so when I get back to the hotel and I get this call and I see the phone on my desk ring and I see Lee Daniels.
How often does he call you?
We often enough.
Right.
I mean, he's pretty communicative. But text or call or whatever. So but I hadn't talked to him in a couple of weeks, and so I see, and intuitively it was just like thumbs up,
right.
up. And so he tells me this. I was like, I knew you were going to tell me that. He's like, how'd you know? I was like, dude, I just knew it. I felt it. But I said, you know where I'm at. I'm down here raising money, using the show, doing a screening to raise money for social good, and you telling me this right now.
Right.
I'm not surprised because y'all really didn't write much for the character this year.
The writing was on the wall in a sense.
Yo, the whole season, B.
Right.
Like third episode, Terrence was like, yo, what are y'all doing? And Lee's like, was Terrence your agent? I'm like, I ain't tell him to say that. Why is Terrence saying
Was he kind of slick when he said that?
No, Terrence was like, yo, Malik should be directing. Because, sometimes directors come through that don't have a lot of experience. I've spent over 10,000 hours on television sets.
So you're an expert. You're an expert in this.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I like the way you said that.
That's right.
Yo, because it's you're an idiot if you're not.
Exactly.
It's the best film school in the world.
Your IKEA chair.
And so for the young actors like Yaz, who plays Hakeem, or Tiana Saraya, who plays Tiana, I'm literally on set giving those kids acting lessons before they go shoot the scene. Like Jussie, like in the beginning of the season, I'd say, come here, man. Because you can tell that, first of all, they didn't have the experience. They never acted before. So you're only as strong as your weakest link, which is I learned that from John Candy doing Cool Runnings.
Yes.
I'll never forget when Candy said, like, just make every scene count. And so when they're young actors coming up, and I teach anyway, and I've been teaching acting since I was like 18. And so for me, I see them, I had to pull them to the side. But in terms of the technical aspects of telling stories and camera lenses and angles and why you shoot a certain, like, that's so deeply ingrained in me that you have to direct as an extension of your experience.
It comes naturally.
For some people.
Right.
For me, it does.
But being in a position that you've been in, someone that's passionate about your craft, somebody who cares about what you do and the people around you, it comes out naturally.
Yeah, you got to. Man.
Right.
You got to.
And he's also became like a coach. You know, like when you're saying that, I'm thinking of how that intersects with even sports. Like you're like a head coach. Or
I was like Derek
coach.
Jeter. Like I felt like Derek Jeter. Like in his last season with the Yankees.
Okay,
like,
yeah, exactly.
Yo, I've been here. I've won championships. I know what this is. Like, just come here.
Let me put you on.
Let me ask you though, man. In your experience, and is this possible when the show calls you and they tell you they're going to kill off your character? Is there any type of negotiating? Like, can we make this work?
Yeah. There was definitely that. There was definitely, he was like, I don't know, man, because Lee doesn't run the show.
Right.
Him and Danny Strong created the show, but he doesn't run it. So there's a woman named Eileen Chaikin who created the L Word that actually runs the show, meaning she runs the writer's room. She's in charge of hiring the directors, oversees the whole creative process of the show. Then there's someone else who handles the physical production of a show. So I was definitely like, dude, like, really? Like, there's no way we could work. That's the story.
Right.
It's bad enough y'all haven't written anything real significant for me to sink my teeth into. People don't even really know who Vernon was.
Right.
And in my head.
And it seems like there's such a back.
Yo, B, like,
story.
we came up, you were my attorney
Yes.
at one point.
Yes, sir.
You were representing me in music.
You didn't know that, did you?
I do know that. You told me that.
You were representing me in music
Yes.
at a time we started our little label. And so I come up with a music background. I grew up, like Dame Dash grew up in my building. I remember when him and Jay first met, or watching Russell create Def Jam in New York City, watching all these cats. So I knew who the Vernon type cat is supposed to be. In fact, by the third episode, I asked him, did y'all even write a bio for this dude? Because some of the stuff how am I supposed to connect these dots? Like, who are these people to each other? They're like, nah, we didn't. I was like, do you mind if I write one? So I wrote one that for me, I had to anchor myself in the truth of that relationship. This is a dude that, came from the South. Father was a pastor. They moved to Bed-Stuy in the 80s, beginning to crack. It's never about the crack game, but knew who was doing what, was that kid that was like.
And tempered enough so he knew, or people knew that he had a presence to not fuck with him.
Exactly. But went to school, got the degree, did the right thing, went to Wharton, met Lucius when he was in Philly, at a little party. Him and Cookie were hanging out, saw the kid had skills, and was like, yo, I'm going to do the business, you do the creative, we're going to build this empire. Like, that's how it has to be. Right? Like,
that's what
none of
sense.
these cats build a record label by themselves. No. And so for me, because the show wasn't created by people from the music industry and don't really understand the value to me of those relationships and those stories, or just chose to
the
not
subtleties
really,
of the importance of those
that,
relationships.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And so I had to root myself as an actor in that truth.
Right.
Otherwise, you're just floating around like, whatever y'all tell me to do, I'm gonna do.
And you're not making each scene count.
Yeah, and I'm not trying to just be a yes man.
Right.
Like
and you were very determined that your character didn't come off as his yes man.
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Initially, what in terms of what was on paper, an initial script, was it leaning towards that in a sense?
Nah, man. I mean, the thing that, Vernon was described as the chairman of the board.
Yes.
Right? So even though there wasn't much in the pilot, I was like, if he's a chairman of the board and they trying to take a company public, there's a lot of room to talk about the business aspects of these two black men building a company in hip-hop in America right now. And so I thought we'd have an opportunity to get into the business of it, that it wouldn't be this high drama soap opera about, everyone backstabbing each other and fight. I knew there'd be some issues around jockeying for position, the King Lear, 3 sons, who's going to take over the throne construct. But I thought it was going to be a different experience. So, somebody's script comes up and you're like, oh, so we doing The Sopranos now.
Right.
Oh, so now I'm covering up for murders now.
Right.
Really?
So you're big pussy in a sense.
Yeah, exactly.
Forget about it.
What are you gonna do? Forget about it.
Let me ask you something.
What are you gonna ask me? Let me ask you.
Hey, listen, pussy. If you didn't write the bio, do you think that your character could have floated in a way? Like,
I don't know, man. It's one of those situations where, whenever you would ask, like, where's this going? Nah, we can't really say because the network, this and that.
And you got to keep people in the dark, in a sense.
You don't have to.
Right.
I mean, I've done shows where I have 3-4 scripts in advance.
Right.
Like,
So you know.
Yeah,
so you're getting the scripts the week of, or the episode?
Maybe a few days.
Right.
A few days before.
Okay.
The next episode. But in other situations, I've had a very different experience with the showrunners who were like, nah, we're gonna let you know exactly what's going on, because especially if you have flashback scenes, you have to know who you are, where you're coming from. So this was an odd experience in that sense. And they'd say, well, there's so many people who chime in, and they change their mind. I'm like, well, I don't know. It was weird. It was a weird experience in that sense.
Yeah. Let me ask you, man. Like, when I watch Empire, and I enjoy the show, like my wife actually piqued my interest. She's usually the one that's like brings me to watch. I was like, but then she got me there, and I loved it. And do people make the connection between Empire and Hustle and Flow?
For some people, I mean, they say they feel like it's an extension of Terrence and Taraji's characters, or that's been said, but not too much.
Yeah, how amazing is it to be in Taraji's presence? Because she's putting it down right now.
Yeah,
she's putting it down.
Yeah. She is, and it's testament to what happens when they put the material in front of you.
Right.
If she had Vernon's lines, it wouldn't be it wouldn't be the cookie. So, and that's one of the things that I'm happy for everybody that gets to win. You know what I mean? And I'm really happy for her. Single mom, moved to LA, didn't really get going until she was in her 30s, late 20s, or you know what I mean? Which is
old in the industry.
It's ancient,
right?
How many women are at that age that are doing it, and she's ascending still, which I love, and she deserves it because she's incredibly talented. Like, we finally had a scene together, just me and her, in the season finale. I was like, yo, it took 12 episodes. Like, that's the kind of shit to me that was like, really, like, you don't see the value in making amazing moments between these actors that could really get in
and
there
extending
and
them,
play,
right?
And but at the end of the day, my father always said, build your own generator, so when they turn off the power, you still have lights.
There you go.
And so my whole life has been 12 other hustles going on at the same time. And especially as an actor, other actors look at you like, how do you even have the bandwidth to think about this other shit? In fact, Lee Daniels, when we first started, like, we did the pilot. My company submitted a proposal to Fox a year ago, last March, before the pilot was even picked up. Just saying, based on what this show is, this is how, from a marketing strategy standpoint and creating brand extensions, we can really blow this shit up. I was concerned because I had seen so many missed opportunities in the past for shows I've been involved in. Typically because, as the only black person in the cast who has a sense of the culture, as we refer to it, and knowing how to connect with people. If your PR people don't know who Russ Parr is, or Tom Joyner, or any of the black shit, why we need to be a CIAA, why we need to be at Essence Music,
right?
Like, you're like, I'm tired of having to like convince people these are the places we need to be so we could be relevant for the people that want to see what the hell I'm doing next, if nothing else, right? And so I was very proactive with that. And so I remember talking to Lee.
Were people listening to you when you, or was it?
They will listen, but do people take action is another story. I mean, they'll say, those are great ideas. But Lee was asking, like, why don't you just focus on the acting, man? And you're involved.
But you
market.
can't just.
And that's what he said. He's asked the question, and then he's like, well, I guess you can.
Right.
Huh? This is your 13th show. I'm like, how can I sit here with all the knowledge that I have? Not just opinions, but knowledge.
Experience. Life experience. Right.
Actual experience.
And shut the fuck up. Like, how do you expect me to shut the fuck up?
They're not saying shut the fuck up. They're listening. They're going, yo, this is good ideas. And but it's not what they do.
Right.
So he's worrying about editing or his Richard Pryor movie. And I'm saying, like, when I first met with the writers last summer, 13 writers in the room. And normally bring an actor in when there's writers. And I said, what's my character? And where are we going to go? I didn't ask any of those questions. I went around the room and asked the interns to come join the circle. They were like, nah, I'm like, no, your opinion counts. And I went around and asked everybody, what do you think this show is? Give me your 50,000 foot view of what this show is. because I needed to feel that philosophically we were all on the same page.
Right.
Because if I'm gonna leave my family for 6 months and go live in another city or state or whatever to film something, then I want to know I'm with people that at least of the same mind and spirit. And to me, the show is doing exactly what I thought it would do,
right?
Because there's nothing else like it.
Yeah.
There's nothing else out there. Where's there a black family drama? So that alone is going to attract X amount of interest, then who the cast is, and other elements. So we had a recipe for success, and I just want to make sure that philosophically, spiritually, emotionally, we were all like, yo, we could change the world right now. And the show has, but on a very surface level
Right.
initially.
Right.
Yes, it's entertaining. How deep are we really going to get into the mental health issue where it really matters?
Right.
Like, what if this show was the one that started the ALS Bucket Challenge? How deeply are you going to represent Cookie as a formerly incarcerated woman and what that represents for women like her?
Right.
You know, how deeply are you going to
Are
address
you
the
invested in these issues?
Yeah, man. We
that
shooting in
we
Chicago.
resonate?
We shooting in Chicago,
Right.
where last summer 84 kids got shot over 4th of July weekend. How are we creating bridges for those young people in the south side of Chicago to be involved in this production? How are we doing things that really, really matter?
Right.
That's the shit I care about.
Are we leaving? What kind of footprint are we leaving?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And so I can't do it. I've never done it just for entertainment, ever.
Let me ask you something, man. And we're definitely gonna, people that listen to the show know that we're gonna go take a stroll down memory lane.
Right.
But you come from, well, you thrived during, I want to call Black Hollywood's golden era. In the 90s, you had shows like, In Living Color, New York Undercover, Arsenio Hall, The Cosby Show. Just a host of black shows in the 90s that were doing well. What happened, man?
Well, I'm not in those rooms making those decisions.
Right.
I can't really account for, what happened in terms of network television. But the conventional wisdom is shows exist to sell advertising.
Yes.
And so if advertisers don't believe they can sell their product against whatever the content is, then they're gonna buy into it. So
that's a great answer.
Yeah.
But being somebody that was actually involved in it, what did you see happen? Like what changed? I mean, was
I
it
think
something?
there's short-term memory loss.
Right.
I think that you're as good as your last 5 minutes. I think that people forget. People don't see, because now people can make the connections again through social media.
Yes.
They can see what's important to folks. But were they asking you, did you want New York Undercover to go off the air, or Live in Color, or Live in Single? They didn't ask you.
No, they didn't ask
They
me.
just do it.
Right.
Because, that's the way that the business works.
But-
And so I really don't have an answer other than knowing that if people believe they're going to make money, they're going to go for it.
Did you ever think you would see a time beyond those days where it'd be like there's rarely anything out there for us anymore right now?
Well, I mean, it always goes back to the same. What did my father say? Build your own generator.
Right.
So, and that generator, building is who's writing these shows, who is producing them, who are the execs that are making these decisions.
Who are they? I mean, who's
they
this
aren't
new
people that look
generation?
like, they're not people that look like you and me.
But who's this new generation? Whereas it seemed like, we had something that was definitely successful, something that was just market tested, and something that was proven. How do people forget, man?
Well, the reality is, though, you do have Blackish, you do have
Yes.
Being Mary Jane,
Mhm.
you do have Scandal, you didn't have a Shonda Rhimes back then.
No, you did not.
You didn't have that. The closest you might have had to that was Keenan, maybe Bill Cosby.
Right.
But no one was like Shonda Rhimes has taken the space like a Norman Lear, who gave us the Jeffersons and,
All in the
Sanford
Family,
and Son or Aaron Spelling.
Right.
She's that woman now. A David E. Kelly or, Aaron Spelling. She's that person. So we didn't have that before. She alone has given us the practice in Grey's Anatomy and, so all those shows. So now you have Empire. And now you have networks that are scrambling for the next Empire. Dude, this next pilot season,
Get your shit in.
I've seen scripts for shows with black leads.
Right.
So they're starting to go, all right. So
So the pendulum is swinging again.
It's swinging. I'm developing something myself with some friends. You know Rhonda Cowan?
Yes.
Rhonda
Cowan. Rhonda is a great, but she's such a character also. Like she's such a character needs to be based on Rhonda Cowan.
I'm gonna tell her that. Maybe we'll put one.
But would you agree?
Yeah. I mean, Rhonda, that's heart, man. That's good
Yes.
people. You know what I mean? She's
What up, Rhonda?
Rhonda's been in the business a long time.
Long time.
And working in production, and so she sent me a script recently that I liked. I sent it to a friend of mine, Courtney Parker, who used to write on Law and Order. Criminal Intent is set in the sports world, and it can have those same elements that we talked about, that will work. But it's something I can be in control of, because I'm not well for people. Like,
you don't like getting killed off, right?
Not randomly, not because they're like, well, Games of Thrones does it. Somebody should die, and we got to figure out who it should be. And
this week is you.
I'm like,
yeah, I don't know. Even with Sopranos, I never liked that. Like the way they did everything. But I will say, with listening to you and knowing that when they kill characters off, and all your experience over the years, and seeing people like Dame Dash dropping like Sidus and stuff, but not even him, the way you speak about Instagram and how powerful it is, and how to direct the consumer. Have you ever thought about making your own like platform or movie and dropping it like that?
Oh yeah. I mean, I've been creating content for a long time, so writing a film is all about or getting a film made. Obviously, got to write it, then you got to raise money to do it, or spend X amount of your own money, and so there's films. I'm working on a bunch of stuff, film stuff, web stuff, reality stuff, and I always have. It's just been hard to get it done. In fact, speaking of Rhonda, I have a film called What's on the Hearts of Men that I wrote first as a play back in 2000. We toured in the urban theater market, made almost $3 million with that. This is before Tyler Perry blew with his plays, right?
Right.
So here I am, talking about memory lane. So back when I first got off New York Undercover, David E. Talbot had been asking me to do those gospel plays forever. Right. And I was like, man,
you don't want to do the chitlin circuit? That chitlin circuit is money, B.
He started asking me in like 96 to do that. And I grew up here in New York doing legitimate theater. So I was like, I ain't going to do that. So finally.
I like the way you said legitimate.
Yeah.
Like that's what it's called. Like a cocky New Yorker.
No.
Right.
Legit theater is the term for union shows.
Okay.
That's what it's called.
Okay.
It's actually called legit theater.
Right.
And so I couldn't do those touring shows because I was like, man, that's not real. So back in like 99, I got a series called Bull, which is based on Wall Street. And we shot the pilot. We were shooting the pilot. And we shot the pilot, and then I had like 4 months between the time I was going to go shoot the series. So Dave Talbot asked me again to do one of his plays, and I was like, all right, I'll go out there.
What changed your mind?
Because David and I had done a little independent film together.
Okay.
And so I brought him on set, Bill Duke, hung out with Bill Duke. And, again, me just always trying to be of service to other people and their dreams. And so I said, all right, you're trying to do this movie thing. Come on the set of New York Undercover. Learn what it's like to be on a real set. All right, you're doing one of these plays. I got 12 weeks. He was like, I'll pay you $15,000 a week and 5% of anything over $300,000. Well, the reality is we made $5 million in 12 weeks.
Wow.
$3 million was profit.
Right.
Doing a play with black people that was not quote unquote legit theater, that was non-union, that was crazy. And
See, I love that though. I love that story.
Yeah, I was like, word? That's how this game is?
Right.
So I went to the promoter, and I said, if I write one, will you put it up? He was like, yeah. So I wrote What's on the Hearts of Men with my brother, Vernon Yoba, and who you know.
Yes.
And we put that up, and we actually, what's crazy about that is we held auditions on 9/11.
Mm.
And
that didn't go that well, huh?
It did not. It did. But one of the craziest stories about that was
where were the auditions being held?
Right here in New York, right downtown. So
downtown.
There was this actor named Mike Lamel who was from Virginia who heard about the audition. He was driving up to New York to come audition, and planes at the Pentagon. He's stuck in traffic on the highway. He's like, God, if I'm supposed to make it to New York, show me a sign. Right as he prayed that prayer, my producing partner Chuck West was driving up the New Jersey Turnpike, and he saw Chuck, and he was like, "Yo, I'm supposed to go do this show." Long story short, we still end up doing that show.
Right.
We went out on the road October 11th, a month after 9/11.
Wow.
And we were out there for 12 weeks, and we still did like $3.5 million.
Right.
And so when that show got to LA, the promoters wanted to pull it because ticket sales were a little slow. We were only at about 65, 70%.
But that's still good in the shadow of 9/11.
Yo, dude, it was crazy.
Yeah.
It was crazy. And the producers wanted to pull the show. And I said, nah, we can't. We're in LA. We got to do this like a Hollywood joint. And so I called up Favors like, Will Smith, like, yo, I need you on the red carpet with your kids, like with the babies. And and we did like the first official like red carpet premiere at the Wilshire Hotel in LA. It was like who's who of Black Hollywood, treated it just like a film premiere. And everybody showed up. We made our money. And I remember Reuben Cannon, who started producing with Tyler Perry a few years later. At the end of the show, Reuben ran into my dressing room and was like, yo, Malik, if we had baskets to pass out right now, people would tie. He was like, I want to turn this into a movie. And I was like, all right, bet. He was like, I'm doing my first one with Dave Talbot, and the next one is going to be with you. Did y'all see that movie?
No.
Exactly. This never got made.
Okay. I did not see that.
I'm glad you
Yeah, I saw it.
Nah, it never got made. So Reuben ended up working with Tyler Perry and bringing Tyler's product, that was being promoted by the same promoter,
Right.
to Hollywood, or helping to get it out to the masses. And so, with the success of that play, I thought it should be pretty easy. Like, all right, look, we made almost $3.5 million with this one. We made $5 million with this one. Like, there's a real audience out there for it. Let's create like a little incubator that can take these plays, put them on the road, show proof of concept. Basically, they can make money, then do them as film or developing a television property. Everything that Tyler Perry ultimately did is everything that was in my business plan from 2004.
So here you go again, being ahead of your time.
Yeah, it's happened my whole life.
Isn't
bro.
that shit annoying, man? A little bit.
It's not. I don't know if I won't say it's annoying. It's just one of those things. Like that started for me like in high school, bro.
Right.
Like before the Troop jackets came out.
Shout out to Troop.
Yo, that was in my head. Like varsity jackets instead of the wool, make them all leather. Use bright colors, block coloring. Then here come the Troop jackets.
Yeah.
I used to make leather bags when I was in high school. I took class at Parsons.
Let's go back. Let's go back.
Right.
But before we go, I want to ask you one more thing about the going independent. And have you seen Money and Violence?
Nah, but I heard about it though. I need to check it out.
Now check it out, man, because
Yeah.
it's interesting. We had them on the show a couple of months ago, and it's these young brothers
In Brooklyn.
young
I
Haitian
know
brothers.
some kids uptown, Dominican kids,
Yeah.
doing something called the Block.
Yeah,
The same. Shout out to my boy. I want to say Gabrielle. It's not Gabrielle. I'll think about it in a minute. What his real name is, but
We gotta think of a Dominican name.
Yeah, no, it's not. Nah,
Luis.
Nah, it's not. Fuck, man. It'll come back to me. He's gonna be mad at me. But anyway, who created the Block? Same idea. Dominican kid, hungry. I love his story. Like he, always wanted to be a filmmaker. Came from Dominican Republic. He was like 9. Used to watch all these movies. Tell his mother, one day I'm gonna be a director. She was like, you're crazy. Go to school. And he bought cameras, saved up his money, and then he just started writing and shooting his own joints. And he's dope.
Yeah.
He's dope. And so same concept though.
it's amazing, man. It's just amazing how the thing was right on the technology was right under our noses.
Right.
The YouTube and what these kids did, man, and how they kind of in a sense revolutionized black filmmaking again, man. It's just amazing, man.
But that's the build your own generator.
Yes.
Take the power in your hands and just shoot.
Let's go back, man. You were born in the Bronx.
Yes, sir.
And you remember growing up in the Bronx? Did you grow up in the Bronx?
Yeah.
6 kids, right?
6 kids in my family. Yeah. Born in the Bronx, South Bronx, back in 1967, Lincoln
Shit.
Hospital.
So you saw Bronx burn, huh?
I was living in South Bronx, but that's all we knew. Like the congas in the park, the
Right.
Black Spades, the Savage Nomads. In fact, there's a documentary called Rumble, Black Rumble in the Bronx, or something like that. Rumble Kings. which I have to see.
It's a
documentary called The Rumble Kings.
About the gang?
Yeah, about the gangs in the Bronx.
In the 70s?
In the 70s, yeah. Which I need to see.
70s was a scary time, huh?
Yeah, it was. But that's what it was.
But that's what you knew.
That's what you knew. Like looking out the window, seeing the dudes with the cutoff denim jackets with the, the black spades, the Savage Nomads, hearing the congas in the park, the sneakers over the wire.
Telephone pole.
Yeah,
so you growing up, what was your household like, man?
The household, man. Well, we were Muslim, first of all. So
strict?
My father was pretty strict.
Right.
Yeah. Wake up every day at 5 o'clock, crack of dawn to pray. Have to fast during Ramadan. Had to study Arabic. Didn't celebrate Christmas, but would lie about it. Like all your friends knew you were Muslim because you had this funny little hat on your head. You had a funny name nobody could pronounce, and you didn't eat pork like everybody else. You go on the Christmas
You've never
break.
etten pork in your life?
I started eating pork recently.
Yes,
like,
my nigga. Yes, yes.
Yo,
yes, Malik. yes.
I've been eating pork flavored food, like Brussels sprouts with some pancetta in it. But I don't.
Man, you got to go the whole way. Stop playing around
I haven't done it yet. That's like the last vestige of still being Muslim. But growing up, you have the Christmas break, and then you lie to your friends when you go, "Yo, what'd you get for Christmas?" And I was stupid because like they knew I was Muslim,
right?
But I would go down the list of all the toys my friends got back in the neighborhood. Then I go back to school. Yeah, I got the pinball machine and G.I. Joe,
the Hot Wheels, and
the Lionel train.
But what would your father do? What did he do?
My father was a frustrated musician. My father ultimately worked in the hospital, Albert Einstein College of Medicine in the Bronx and Montefiore Hospital as an X-ray technician, and then he also worked in Graham Court in Harlem, which was the dope spot in New Jack City.
Yes,
that's the building that they used where they had the
Carter building.
Yeah, exactly. So downstairs was a clinic, and he was an X-ray technician at that clinic, and he used to make my brother and I come to that clinic and file the X-rays, thousands of them. You know how thin an X-ray is, bro?
Yes.
And they were all out of order, and we had to like one at a time.
That just sounds like good times.
And pay us $2.
Good times. Did you enjoy that job?
Hell no. He'd pay us $2.
Right.
And we'd walk all the way from 108th Street and 1st Avenue, Spanish Harlem, up to 116th and 7th Avenue to file X-rays with the dope fiends with the big swollen hands, with the dope fiend nod. As kids, that was crazy.
And what were you what were you learning or picking up from those experiences, man?
Well, looking back, man, my father, I credit him for the hustle.
Right.
Because that dude, although he worked in the hospital and worked in the clinic, and he sold clothes, and ultimately sold weed, which I didn't know. I found out in high school. I found his stash one day. I was like,
did you cop his stash?
Regular weed? Was it dirt?
Nah, it wasn't dirt. Nah.
Did you take a little pinch off?
I might have. Yo, it was a crazy story. I remember he's dead now, so he can't do nothing to me. But my father, I remember one time walking into his room and he was cleaning his gun. He had a Magnum.
Damn, a Magnum,
a long barrel Magnum.
Yeah.
And he had this like unit built around the bed that covered actually my mother had that done, but it covered the radiator, almost like a shelving kind of thing. Behind the bed, they had like potted plants. They had it checked out sexy. And, but he had like this little, like, door open where the little, like it was about this wide and you open it up.
A little stash box.
Nah, but it was like part of the compartment.
Right.
And you open it, that's how he can get to the radiator knob to like turn it up and down. But in that was like a dummy wall. And so I saw that it was open while he was cleaning his gun. I was like, oh, so that's what so I sat next to him, just watched him clean his gun. And then when he wasn't home,
and he didn't hide it.
He couldn't. Like, it was kind of like I busted him.
Right.
Like, he's just in his room cleaning his gun.
So he continued cleaning.
And he's continued cleaning the gun.
Right.
And I sat next to him like, wow, okay, I'm looking at the gun.
How old were you?
I was in middle school,
right.
Man, like 12, 13.
12, 13. Very formative years.
Yeah. So I saw he had the door open. I was like, oh, that's where he keeps stash. So when he wasn't home, I went in there and like snooped around, and I realized it was a dummy wall. I opened the wall. And then that's where the gun was. That's where bullets were. He had stashes of cash. and he had like.
Hold on, what did your father really do, man?
Yo, my father was a hustler. Yo, he was a hustler, man.
Right.
His thing was he had 6 kids.
Yes,
and
he was. Your mom was young.
My mother was 16 when she met him. He was 32.
Right. Okay.
And they stayed together till she was 32. They had 6 kids. They split up, and we left with him.
Right.
Well, we were left with him.
Right.
Her and
she broke out.
The cops came to the house. They had a little altercation. The cops asked her to leave. Imagine that. 1977, a black man with 6 kids in the house, and the cops say, "Ma'am, I think you should come with us."
I mean, but once again, and this is what I try to explain to this generation that grew up under stop and frisk. It was a different time, man. I don't think there's been a time when policing. I don't glorify the days of the past, but it was a different type of police officer.
Yeah,
it was a different type of policing.
I think so.
Yeah.
Well, yes and no. I mean, we did have hoses turned on us.
Yeah, but they weren't. They weren't shooting us every fucking week.
No, definitely not. But they knocked my father's tooth out when he was a teenager.
They were tough as fuck. They'd knock you out, but you live to talk about it.
Yeah, they weren't killing.
I'm gonna get this tooth fixed.
Yeah. So I went back and saw the stash, and I started tapping in, and but I also took some money because my father had a paper route from 8 years old, right, to 16. And so every week, my father would make me give him money.
Right.
So at that point, I had saved about.
He had you giving him money from your paper. Oh, to save for you, right?
So at that point, I had like $400 saved.
Right.
And so he had cash with $100 bills, like rolls. And so
it's crazy, man.
I knew that he would have never in a million years thought I'd tap his stash.
Right.
So I appropriated funds from his stash.
And he never knew.
I'm sure he noticed because it was $100 bills.
Right. But he had a lot of $100 bills.
He wasn't going to come back to me and go, were you in my, because otherwise he would know I saw where he kept all his stuff. Right. So
he'd incriminate himself.
Yeah, that's one of the little things I got away with.
So when you guys moved to Harlem, was it culture shock? Was it different?
No, not at all. Not at all. We moved from the Bronx. And crazy story, Michael DiLorenzo, who played my co-star in New York Undercover, we used to live on the same block.
Really?
We didn't know each other.
That's crazy.
But as kids, we
at the same time.
Yes, sir.
And you never saw him, never knew him.
Never knew him.
That's crazy, B.
Lived on the same block, Underhill Avenue, in the Undercliff in the Bronx. But we first moved from the Bronx to 96 and 3rd, where the mosque is right now. That used to be tenements.
Okay.
And I went to elementary school right across the street. And so we lived in those tenements while 1199 was being built in East Harlem. And so we were the first family to move in there. So it wasn't culture shock at all because that complex, we moved in November of 74. It didn't open until 75, January. But it had Olympic-sized swimming pool. It had the basketball court.
So you guys were moving on up.
Yeah, we had a duplex apartment, river views, terrace. So my father, he was like, and he was part of the hospital union that brought that building to life. So he looked at it like we were living. I
read somewhere, man, that you got shot when you was 15.
Yeah.
What happened, man? What were you doing, man?
I was leaving. I went to Park West High School because my father wouldn't let me go to the Performing Arts High School.
Why not?
Because he called it like you're not going to ever make a living being an actor.
Did he think it was like some sissy shit, or?
Nah, he just thought that that's not what you do. Like you're not going to make a living. Like find a vocation.
So let me interrupt you. Like my audience always hates when I interrupt, I guess. You knew you wanted to be an actor, or you wanted to be in the arts.
Yeah, since I was 4. But I'm gonna answer the other question. Yes, I did. I saw Alice in Wonderland when I was 4, and I knew I wanted to be part of that magic on stage that I saw off Broadway. But I was leaving Park West High School January 18th, 1983, and there was a fight in the middle of the street, and Printing High School was down the block.
Right.
And so at 3 o'clock, you have like 3,000 kids in the street going home, and 9 kids are beating up on this one kid.
In 83.
Yeah. And I'm looking at this.
When New York was hot.
Yeah.
Because I remember.
Like where Worldwide Plaza is now on 50, that was all at one big ass parking lot.
I remember that.
From 8th Avenue all the way to 9th Avenue.
And it's kind of funny because it was like from 81, 82, 83, as we were growing up, that's when I noticed some of my friends were carrying guns now. Like things started really changing. You know what I'm saying?
And Park West at that time was known as the Wild Wild West.
Right.
And so kids are in a fight in the street. At the time I was studying martial arts, My father was
what discipline?
I studied straight karate, taekwondo, and then I studied a style called Ivy Jitsu, which was taught by a cat in Harlem named Master B. And he kind of took a few different styles and came up with his own. So between my father being the sort of repressive spirit that he was, they used to beat my ass with extension cords, like butt naked till you bleed,
right?
Type shit.
Right.
And the belt?
No belts.
Just extension
like that
cords.
wire right
That's
there
all you needed
on
was
your
an
No,
extension.
I know.
That's all you don't need no
There was
belt.
no belt.
The belt didn't whistle like that.
I might have got hit with a belt like when I was really young, but after that it was extension cord, like slave style.
Were you doing so, or was he just?
Yo, you got a bad report card.
Right.
You spoke back. That was.
So he was
his
a
way.
disciplinarian like that.
Bananas.
Right.
Like bananas. And so, he, I had to go to. So when I'm leaving school, I see this fight go on. And I'm watching these kids beat this kid up, and I was like, yo, man, like look at these punks, man. It's like I wish a nigga would, because it was ridiculous. Like 9 dudes on one guy. One had a baseball bat. One had a golf club, and I was like, man, that's just crazy. Next thing I know, Cat pushed me to move people out the way so they could beat this kid. Yeah. And I pushed him back. We had some words, and another kid came up behind me, grabbed me in the neck, kind of like how I choked Andre on.
Love that choco, man. Yeah, choco was so perfect.
That's some yoke him up.
Yeah, threw me on the ground and told another kid to shoot me. And so
you're hearing this?
Yeah. Kid pushed the kid back. Another guy grabs me around the neck, throws me on the ground, tells a third kid, yo, cap him. Back when people used to say, cap him.
Put a cap in him.
Yeah. And kid pulls back, pow, and takes a shot and hits me in the neck. Just a graze wound.
Right.
That ended up in the wall. There's a Thai restaurant on 50th Street that for years was still there. And a bullet lodged in the wall, and which I found out later. But it's true what they say. You think your life is flashing before your eyes.
You saw them whippings and the gun in the wall.
And the time I yelled at my sister and hit her and all that. And
you felt that graze.
it smelled like burning hair.
Right.
And, it happened so quick. You just smell like, damn, something smells like it's burning. I had a white hoodie on, had gray leaves. Remember the colored leaves?
Yes.
We put the permanent crease in, and a pair of those Converse All-Stars that had the mesh on them, like back in the 80s, styling. I looked out at my white hoodie, and I had a little blood on it. And Kid Marvin was like, yo, Yoba, and tells me to run to the hospital. St. Clair's Hospital used to be on 52nd Street and 9th Avenue. We ran to the hospital, and they just looked at me like, damn, really? Actually,
like
I remember,
you're here for that?
I remember showing up, and they give us this pile of paperwork and saying, fill out this paperwork.
As a kid?
Yes.
With this
wound.
Yes.
And I'm like, do you not see the bullet wound? And then they admitted me, and the doctors, I just remember waking up the next day, and the doctors, it was like 6 doctors around my bed looking down at me, shaking their head at how lucky I was, because had it been a half inch over, I would have been dead.
Right.
And a quarter inch over, I would have been paralyzed from the neck down. So they were just like, damn, this kid is really lucky. And then, I told my father, look, if I was going to that theater school, I wouldn't have got shot.
You threw that shit on him?
Yeah, yes, sir.
How did he react, coming to the hospital?
His words were, I wish we could handle it, the way we can handle it.
Right.
You remember he had that gun in the crib. So he was definitely like, we could take it to the streets, but we're not going to do that. But unfortunately, they brought me in for a lineup, and the kid that they thought did it had gotten a haircut. So they lined the line. It was a Puerto Rican kid. They lined them all up, or a Spanish kid, and put these curly wigs on them, and they all looked like Harpo. It was like a clown.
Right.
Like, so I'm in the lineup, like I couldn't tell who it
right,
was, because they all looked like a bunch of clowns with curly wigs on.
Which is crazy.
So nothing ever happened.
You never seen that kid again?
No. I wouldn't recognize him if I saw him.
Right.
Yeah.
So at that point, your father takes you out of the school, or?
Yeah. He let me. So I was Park West, and then he let me go to Julia Richmond, because they had the Talent Unlimited program.
Right.
Lisa went there. Kadeem Hardison went there. Most Def came through there later on.
So Lisa was in your.
Yeah, Lisa. Who else?
Lisa, man.
Lisa was probably the biggest one.
But Lisa was the biggest one too.
Yeah.
Lisa. You hooked up with Lisa?
No.
She said, "Ooh, baby, I think you love me from head to toe."
So instantly your life changes, right?
Instantly, yeah.
You know,
Actually, one of the biggest things was there was this girl. Her name was Lisa. This like she was Puerto Rican, but she had that like dark caramel skin, like
She was morena.
She was like yeah, but I loved that girl, man. And she used to never really give me play. When I got shot though, when I went back to school, she was like, oh.
Just give me that sympathy
yeah,
hug.
Yeah, all that.
She put that sazon.
But then I left the school. So Lisa, you know who you are if you hear this. Holla at me on Instagram.
So now you're thriving. You're acting. You're singing. You're in this environment. What happens professionally? How does your life start moving professionally?
Well, then I'm still just a teenager.
Right.
I'm in high school, and so
and were
soon
you
after,
inspired
so
by-
I got shot in January of '83.
Right.
By October of '83, my father kicked me out the house. I'm now 16.
Why did he kick you out the
He
house,
caught
man?
me in bed with this girl. So that's whole summer that I got shot. Right. I went to Julie Richmond.
It's been a hard knock life that year.
I joined. It was so I joined the theater program. They had a summer program. We did West Side Story.
Right.
I played Tony, and there was a girl named Brenda that I met during the summer that I had the crazy crush on. And
those crushes are special.
Yo,
aren't they,
in
man?
high school,
Especially with the name.
Nothing
Brenda.
beats those
Brenda
crushes.
Duguay. I don't know where you are, girl, but you know what happened.
Yeah, you may have a lot of these girls.
You changing a lot of people's lives right now,
Yeah,
man.
Brenda, man. She and I had a crush on her crazy through the summer, and this older dude that was from my neighborhood. He was short like Prince,
right?
And people thought he looked like Prince. And this dude was like 25 years old, but he was like 5'3", so he used to
perpetrate the fraud like he was
like he was young. And somehow Brenda was dating him, and I was mad. Like that whole you dating Tracy, like that's just whack. So by the fall, they broke up,
right?
And she was in my theater program, and so we got together and went to the crib, and my father walked in, and he was like, "Oh hell no!"
He kicked you out though?
Yeah, he was like, "Pack your shit and get the fuck out," is what he said.
Really?
Pack your shit and get
the
fuck out.
Wait a minute, you're 16?
16 years old.
16 years old.
He said, "Pack your shit and get the fuck out."
Right. Did you argue back? I mean, I know you had
I was so used to getting beat. I literally said, "Don't kick me out. Why don't you beat me?" Because there's 6 kids in my family, right? My brother, my 2 older sisters, all got kicked out by the age of 17.
Really?
For different reasons. My brother got his girl pregnant, and she got so there
was
always.
Your pops was not playing around.
Oh no, y'all get out.
Get the fuck out.
But he later on he was like, "I feel like I put enough in you that you would survive," and it was true. He taught us how to budget. He taught us how to cook, how to clean, how to shop. Like we were domesticated kids.
So in a sense, do you think he was, in his mind, doing you a service?
I think he thought. Well, I don't think he necessarily thought that, because I can't imagine kicking out my 16-year-old.
Right.
But he, I don't know what the hell he was thinking.
He had to think that he was at least teaching you a lesson.
Yeah,
I know you had to be like, where do I go?
Right. So because my parents had split, and at that point, like he didn't let me see my mother from 10 years old to 14. So
what?
Like when my parents split, I didn't see my mother for like 4 years.
Right.
Because he used to threaten her, like, "Don't you try to come around here and see these kids."
What were your thoughts and your feelings towards your mom, man? And how's your mom doing anyway? Man?
She's good, thank you. She's good. But I always knew that he was a little off,
right?
Like, because he was just like, really, my mother to me was the greatest person in the world. So
great spirit. I know.
Yeah. He used to talk shit about it, and I was like, "That's not true."
Right.
Like, whatever. But
after the break.
Yeah.
Right.
So yeah. She's unfit to be a mother. How could she leave her kids? I'm like, I would have left your ass too.
Nigga, you crazy.
If I could. Yeah,
mom is the only smart one.
So, but when he said I had to leave, my boy Chuck, God bless his dad, Chuck Burnside, I called him up and went to his house, stayed with him for a couple of days till I tracked down my mother through some of our other friends. And I went up to the Bronx. I was in Harlem at the time, and I went back to the Bronx to live with her for a while. And
how was that?
That was great. It was like night and day, because my father was so repressive, and she was like always the one who was like, anything you want to do, I'll support. So you want to be in theater, you want to study photography. She got me an internship with a photographer. I worked at the Negro Ensemble Company,
right,
which is the preeminent theater company at the time. She got me that job. I was, working in the office, selling subscriptions, and going through headshots of actors that were submitting their shit. My job was to throw them away. I worked in the theater doing concessions.
So your life is growing.
Yeah, Sam Jackson's doing plays at the time there. Felicia Rashad, Angela Bassett.
Wow.
Denzel had done Soldier Story there.
Right. I remember that.
And I started working right after Soldier Story at that place. So Michael Peters, who directed Bad and Beat It video,
Yes.
Not Beat It, Bad video. He used to come through there. So for me, I'm now 16. I'm working at this theater, which is what I always wanted to do, like just be in theater.
It's. I was never in theater, but I trained when I was young. It's a whole different world, man.
Yeah.
It's comforting.
Comforting. For me, theater was like, till this day, man, to be in an empty playhouse and I could sit in the theater. Like I was in Amsterdam a few years ago and visiting these old theaters, man. And I would just go in, nobody in there, and just sit and just close my eyes and just feel like the spirit of all the artists that have passed through in the last 200 years in this theater. It's one of the
Trapped in that wood.
Yeah, man. Sacred for me. The older, the better. So that's what I wanted to do, man. And Theater 4 was right up on 55th Street between 9th and 10th Avenue where the Negro Ensemble had the space, right across from where Alvin Ailey School is now. And so for me, those days of just sitting there and dreaming about life and Sam Jackson, I met him when I was 16 and he was playing the Bones in a play, playing an old Negro spiritual kind of.
Sam Jackson been playing old cats for a long time.
Yeah,
right? For a long time.
Yeah.
Let me ask you one question before we go to a break. I know you personally, and I know your mom's personally. Was this around the time that your mom started practicing Buddhism?
Yeah. So that summer, when I was doing West Side Story, there was this girl Theodora who lived across the street from the school, and we broke for lunch. Went to Theodora's house, and we walk in, and her mother had an altar set up, and I didn't know what that was. I was like, man, what is that? She said, oh, my mother's a Buddhist. She chants Nam-myoho Renge Kyo. And I was like, oh, that's cool. Fast forward to, this, I would say July of 83. Fast forward to October, my father kicks me out the house. I finally make my way to my mother's house. I go to my mother's house. She has the same altar.
Wow.
I was like, oh, this girl I was just doing. So, yeah, my mother had started practicing Buddhism, and with all 6 kids, 4 of us, my father kicked out.
Were they at your mom's house now? Also?
No. Now, 4 of us had got kicked out. My brother was there. I think one of my sisters was there. Another sister was living with a family friend. It was like an aunt. But my mother used to chant for all her kids to return to her. So her testimony is I made this happen.
Right.
This is what I prayed about, and it happened. So, yeah, she had started practicing, and then that turned me on to it. When I was 16, I decided I would give it a shot when she offered me a trip to Hawaii. She was like, I would like to go to Hawaii for this World Peace Conference. I was like, bet. She was like, well, you're going to have to chant. And then I started practicing. But that actually really helped save my life because not only was I into the chanting, I was into the reading.
Right.
I was reading a lot of books on, Eastern philosophy and Buddhism and, just other ways of thinking. So that helped me.
But how did it save your life?
It saved my life by giving me perspective. That the biggest thing, like I was saying, was about learning how to take responsibility and not blaming other people for your misfortune. So, looking at everything that you say, that you think, that you do, you have to be mindful because, people think karma is don't do that, that's bad karma. But they don't understand
They're looking at it from a Judeo-Christian type of
right.
perspective, right?
Like a sinful thing, but they don't understand that it's really just based on the law of causality. So everything that happens has a reaction, right? For every action is a reaction. So whatever goes up must come down. So you start saying to yourself, I used to look at it in terms of the planets never run into each other. There's a certain order in the universe that things find a rhythm and they act accordingly. And when things are in accordance, they work in harmony. When they're in discord, they work in disharmony. So everything that I think, say, and do should work in accordance with harmony. And so peaceful thoughts, loving thoughts. That's where the whole servant thing really kicked in for me as a teenager. Like, yo, so the secret to this life is, let me just do the right thing. So, gossiping, trying to get over on people, being conniving, lying, all those things really never take residence, because you just know, like, you really lying to yourself. They're never going to find out. And not saying that I'm perfect, and not saying that I haven't lied.
Right.
I've absolutely lied. But
because we're not perfect, but you're mindful.
Right.
Did you take that back to when you got shot? Did you take?
Absolutely. I mean, I took responsibility for, like, okay, nobody told me to walk down that street. Nobody told me to stand in front of that bullet. Yes, the other kid pulled the trigger, but he has to take responsibility for what he did. So my part in that was showing up, choosing to walk down that street. But crazy story about, so that I got shot on 50th Street between 8th and 9th Avenue.
Right.
A few years ago, I was doing a show called Alphas, and I was doing Wendy Williams' show, promoting it. Leaving her studio when she was on 54th Street, 55th Street, whatever, 54th, or whatever it is, 53rd. Driving down 9th Avenue, telling the story about getting shot on 50th Street. As the car approaches 50th Street, I'm pointing to the corner where the kid that told the other kid to shoot me had been standing. And I'm telling my friend, like, yo, that's the street right where I got. And right as I point to it, there's a billboard with my picture on it. Promoting the show Alphas right on the street where I got shot.
Yo, that's crazy, man.
And it was just one of those things that shut it down for, like, the rest of the ride home.
Yeah, you was all contemplative, like cause and effect, and this is not some coincidence.
That's crazy.
Yeah, definitely, man.
Crazy. Because the craziest thing was, like, when I was real young, I used to wonder what it felt like to get shot.
Right.
Like, growing up in Harlem, first time I had a gun put to my head, I was 12. This kid Wallace that was in and out of jail, and I was messing around with his cousin. Like, play fighting, whatever. I'm telling my cousin. So he went upstairs and told Wallace. Wallace comes down with a little 22, puts it to my head. And I'm 12, like, shoot me. Shoot me. Like, because of my father, I really had no fear.
Right.
Like, I would fight anybody or run if it made more sense.
Right.
Because I was studying, martial arts, but I was willing to go at anybody. Even in when I was studying martial, I was a white belt fighting brown belts, ready to fight everybody, which
is an asset, but also you're pulling these events to your life.
Yeah, but I also gave my teachers my autograph when I was 13.
Yeah,
I was like, I'm gonna be famous, so you should keep this. I also wanted to bobsled and go to the Olympics,
which is crazy.
So as I got older, I understood. Oh, right. So these are the things I called to my life.
Manifested.
That manifested, absolutely.
Yo, man, thank you for that. Listen, let's go to a quick break. Internet, you tuned into the Combat Jack Show, combatjackshow.com. We got Malik Yoba in here. F your radio, F your podcast, and F your TV show.
Cheer. Be right back.
Internets, once again, this portion of the Combat Jack Show is brought to you by Bevel, the first and only shaving system designed specifically for coarse and curly hair and sensitive skin. Now, if you're a fan of the Combat Jack Show, you know why I fucks with Bevel so heavy. I fucks with Bevel because they don't bullshit you. You pay money to get a superior product, and that's what you get. Another reason why I fuck with Bevel so heavy is because it's been approved by an African-American dermatologist. That Bevel reduces and prevents razor bumps. It's designed from the ground up to give you a smooth, bump-free shave. Finally, we fucks with Bevel because of Tristan Walker. Tristan Walker is the homie from Queens, New York. He's the golden child out in Silicon Valley. He's an entrepreneur. He saw the hole in this African-American grooming market, and he sold it. Stop playing around, shaving like a heathen, walking around like you have no type of sense, education, or job in your life. Man up. Be a gentleman. Cop that Bevel. Go to getbevel.com, GETBEVEL.com. Punch in promo code COMBAT, COMBAT. That's me, COMBAT for 20% off all goods and services. Once again, that's getbevel.com, promo code COMBAT, COMBAT. Stop shaving like you lost your goddamn mind, boy. And now back to the show. Internet, you tuned into the Combat Jack Show, the combatjackshow.com. We got Malik Yoba in here, and we walking down memory lane, man. Your story is amazing, B. You did Greenpeace?
I was at Greenpeace.
You were at Greenpeace?
Yeah. I was
saving whales? Like, what were you doing in Greenpeace?
I was I used to work for a group called the City Kids Foundation. So, well, actually, I'll back it up even more. So, how I got to even work, you asked about the big break, and I don't always tell the whole story, but it goes back to, Buddhism, honestly. So, in 1985, 4th of July weekend, I was 17 years old, and my mother told me, hey, you can go to Hawaii if you start practicing Buddhism. It was all for this World Peace Culture Festival. So I left school. I went to City Art School at the time, right there in the West Village. And it was a work-study kind of situation. So I took 6 months off, became a bike messenger, was biking around New York, delivering packages, making money.
That was a good time to be a bike messenger.
It was, man. I used to make, I don't know, $200-$300 a week, or,
And the city was so vibrant at the time.
Yeah, man, the 80s, bro.
You miss the 80s, man?
Well, I rode my bike here from Brooklyn, so I still ride like a bike messenger,
right,
like around the city. So
just with different clothes on.
Different clothes.
Did you know the X-Men?
I remember, that
they were a bike messenger crew.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm sorry, we digress.
Digress. But I was also a BMXer. That's a whole other story.
Okay.
So I ride like both of those, bunny hop and all that shit. But went to Hawaii, went to this World Peace Culture Festival, and my life changed. 20,000 people from around the world came in the name of peace. I was part of a 1,500-man human pyramid on roller skates.
I hated those pyramids, man.
And I was on the bottom.
First level ready.
Yeah. So we went to.
What does that mean?
Yeah, I'll tell you afterwards. Man. I'll tell you afterwards.
Well, maybe the listeners need.
No, I'll tell you afterwards, man.
Well, he's talking about first level ready, meaning
we used to build these human pyramids.
Right.
Stories.
It's a Japanese tradition of manifesting the concept of unity through physical action. So, can you get 1,500 men?
Many in body, one in mind.
Right. Can you get 1,500 men to make one human pyramid? That was like at least
that first level was.
Story. So I was
always second level.
I was the bottom level. We had these long ass ladders that went back. I don't know how many men deep, and then we were on roller skates.
I got it. I never thought I would have an SGI conversation on the Combat Jack show. This is crazy.
So I remember being on the bottom level on with roller skates, like going down Collicourt Avenue, and like I ended up in the daily in like the cover of the newspaper,
right? The World Tribune.
Like no, the local newspaper in Hawaii. Right. So this is all going back to the whole thing about one day I'm gonna be famous. You should keep my autograph, right? So I did that. I was on the cover of the paper. I was in like the SGI like brochure, the magazine, the keepsake joint, and I never forget walking down the street near the beach in Waikiki one night, and these Japanese girls in their kimonos who didn't speak English, they were all part of the cultural festival, pointed to my NSA hat, which was it was Nichiren Shoshu of America.
At the time, yeah.
She pointed to my hat. No words were exchanged. And I took my hat, handed it to her, and she dug in her kimono, and she pulled out this little silk pouch to put your beads and your book in. And we just had this exchange.
She was a member also.
Yeah, but from Japan.
From Japan, right.
But there was no, it was crazy. I'm walking down, she points at my hat, I take my hat off, I hand it to her, she hands me the bead case, and I just keep walking. And it was like all in stride. You know what I mean? And I remember that moment was like, wow, that was world peace.
Yeah.
And I went back to New York, summer of 85, that August, and I was like, everybody I would run into, like, yo, you interested in world peace? Like, I've just seen the mountaintop.
So you was doing mad shakabuku.
I was on the street, like, recruiting
street
people,
shakabuku.
like, come to these meetings, and like, so, and because I was reading all those books, I also had like all this information about Eastern thought, and so people always thought I was older than I was anyway. I was 17 running around. They were like, how old are you, like 21? I was like, nah. So I go back to school that fall, and I'm looking for a job. One day, I decided to go check out this place called City Kids Foundation. But 2 years passed, I finally said, you know what, let me go check out City Kids, which was down on Franklin Street in Hudson,
right,
in Tribeca. And this was like 1986, 80, something like that, 86, 87. And I just went down there, and I met Laurie Meadoff, who started it, and I told her, look, I want to change the world. I want to build this place called the International Youth Culture Center. And it was all based on my trip to Hawaii.
Right,
I was like, yo, we can have world peace. I've seen it. And this is how we could do it. And at the time, I was into BMX. So I was like, yo, kids around the world have bikes. So I'm going to build the whole center around a bike track. And like, I'm going to build this BMX track, and there's going to be services for kids. And then I explained this vision. And she looks at me and said, how old are you? 19 at the time. And she says, we've been trying to build this place called the Manhattan Center, which was going to be this $100 million real estate project in Times Square that gave young people all these crazy resources.
Right.
And so we bonded in that moment, and I started volunteering, and then she hired me. I turned 20 that fall. She hired me to work in 13 high schools in New York. We had a grant it was called the AIDP, Attendance Improvement Dropout Prevention. So you mentioned Bensonhurst. I worked at Bensonhurst, Sheepshead Bay High School. I worked at John Adams High School. I worked at Curtis in Staten Island, Lower East Side Prep, Monroe in the Bronx, Thomas Jefferson, East New York, Manhattan Center for Science and Math. So I would go around the city and work with young people in their schools and assess what they needed to stay in school and not drop out. We interview the faculty. We take kids on these retreats to the Poconos, and we work on these big, like, citywide, like, events with all the kids. These called City Kids Speak events. We did them at Carnegie Hall. You mentioned De Niro earlier. De Niro was one of the supporters, and a bunch of Demi Moore during her Ghost days, and Quincy Jones. And
so you're around the creme de la creme at the time.
But working with kids.
Right.
Like, it was the dopest job ever. Like, I did that from like 19 until I went to go do Cool Runnings. But how I did my first film, you asked about the big break. One summer, the summer of 89, we ran out of money. And at this time, I was also working as a waiter, first a busboy, then a waiter at Cafe Luxembourg on the Upper West Side. And so I was making then, in the late 80s, easily $250, $300 a night as a busboy. As a waiter. Once I became a kitchen waiter. Busboys that do about $70, $80 a night. So I was making like...
What were you doing with your money, Malik?
Living in New York City, man. I had an apartment in Chelsea for $700.
Crazy back then, right?
I lived above Barney's for $700.
That's crazy.
$716.
It was 7th Avenue, right?
17th Street between 6 and 7.
Yeah.
Before that, I was living on the Lower East Side. But actually, when I first started working as a waiter, I was still living in the Bronx.
Right.
And I moved downtown. But long story short, I go into work one day, and we didn't get funding. And the older people that worked there were like, well, we got mortgages or kids, whatever, we have to leave. So I told Lori, I was like, I'll stay because I have this waiter job. So I would volunteer.
So much fortune, man.
Yeah. And so I walk into the office one day, and there's a sign on the wall that says $325 a day for a movie. And I was like, shit, I could do that. So I went and auditioned for that movie. It was called Seriously Fresh.
Right.
It was a half-hour AIDS education film. Back in the early days of AIDS, there was a guy named John Hoffman who used to be the president of HBO, who had a lot of friends that were dying of AIDS.
Right.
And so he decided to make these educational narratives around AIDS. And so I went and auditioned for it. I got it. It's a funny story. I remember getting the movie like on a Friday, right? And Mullally Skate Park in the Bronx, the BMX park, I was still riding. And so I do the ramps, and I'm all happy. I got this movie. I rehearse on a Sunday. We start shooting on Monday. I go to Mullally, jumping over a tabletop jump, do a little cross up in the air, hit this other kid on his bike, fall, break my arm.
Damn.
I'm like, damn. So I go to the hospital.
Big break.
I go to the hospital. I show up to rehearsal the next day. The director's like, you're joking, right? What is that? I was like, nah, I broke my arm yesterday. Anyway, I ended up doing the movie anyway.
With the cast?
With the cast. And I had to play basketball in the movie, but I worked around it.
Some special effects and shit. They had a fake arm.
I just used one arm.
Right.
I just used one arm. We worked it in. But so I did the movie, and on set, the dude who wrote the movie was a guy named Jamal Joseph, and he came and he was talking about how he had just gotten out of doing 10 years in Leavenworth for his affiliation with the Black Panther Party. And I was like, yo, I run this youth program, and why don't you come down during Black History Month and come talk to the kids about your involvement in the Panther Party when you were a kid. So he came down that February. Everybody loved him. We ended up hiring him to be artistic director of the repertory company. People like Isaiah Washington were in that repertory company, Donald Faison, Lisa Carson, Dule Hill came through there, Lauryn Hill came through there, like Dash Myhawk, who's working. A lot of people were now like out there doing their thing. But I was actually more interested in doing administrative and the teaching stuff.
Right.
And so they were all in the rep, but I wouldn't always perform with them. But we hired Jamal, and Jamal was like, I'm going to make you famous. And he was working on a film about...
You like, stop playing.
Well, I believed it. Remember, I gave my teachers my autograph when I was 13.
That's true.
So I was like...
Okay.
I always, since I was a kid, I honestly just always felt like my life matters and I'm going to do some big shit.
Right.
I just always knew that. And so he says he's going to make me famous, but he thought I was going to be in his film that he was trying to do about the Black Panther Party.
Mm-hmm.
But Jamal called me one day back in 91. He's like, hey, man, they're doing this movie about the Jamaican bobsled team. They're doing auditions at SOB. So call this woman, Jackie Brown, go down. Tomorrow's the last day.
Last day.
So I went down on a Sunday. The last day. So I was the last person on the last day that they had seen.
You.
Me. And I walk in there.
The second to last person, was it Jeffrey Wright or?
No, Jeff I met at the screen test in L.A.
Okay.
I do my thing. I get up and they're like, yo, you are, a runner and you guys just won a race. Go. And I do some improv about how I taught Bob Marley how to play guitar and write songs. And without me, Bob wouldn't be nothing. And it was all in Jamaican patois. And I forgot about it. I left.
And you're a New Yorker, so, I mean,
yeah.
Most people in New York, or I want to say most melanated people in New York got to know how to talk Jamaican.
Or get some kind of connection.
Yeah.
So a lot of my Jamaican patois, honestly, I picked up in Washington Square Park in the 80s where dudes were selling weed in the park. And I used to ride my BMX bike in the park.
Yeah, man.
Hang out with all these cats.
Nickelback, man.
So I went in and...
That's a horrible...
Yeah.
Well, I'm Italian, so I mean, I could do a Russian, I could do a Chinese.
Yeah, your Russian is good. Your Russian is good, but your Jamaican sucks, B.
Yeah, man. How about that?
Stick to Russian, B.
Yeah.
So
I go do my audition, forget about it, and 2 months later, I'm at Greenpeace at a meeting about saving the whales.
And you're really serious about saving the whale?
Well, it was the City Kids Foundation was all about young people using their voices creatively around social issues, and so that's what we did. And so I was at Greenpeace at a meeting, and the phone rings, and it's like this is whoever it was at the time, Tiffany or whatever the girl's name was, and well, you came in on this movie 2 months ago. I was like, how'd you find me? Oh, we called your office. They told us you were here, and so we need you to fly to LA tomorrow to screen test.
Tomorrow.
And it was like 3:00 in the afternoon. They're like, can you fly to LA tomorrow to screen test for this movie that you auditioned for 2 months ago? And I was like, I don't know. I got a job. I got to ask my boss. So I called Lori up. She's like, boy, you better go.
Yeah.
So I went to LA and I screen tested for Cool Runnings and I got it.
Congratulations.
In 91. And then thank you. And then Christmas Day of 91, or Christmas Eve of 91, Dawn Steele, God bless the dead, all these people have passed, so many people have passed in this journey. She was the first woman to run a studio. She ran Columbia Pictures. She was also the first person to ever do product placement in the movie. Or not product, the promotional, like the toys that go with the
tie-ins,
movie. Yeah,
right.
the tie-ins. And she calls me and says, they're not going to make the movie. She's like...
it was initially Disney, right?
Disney did the movie. Originally, it was it was Buena Vista.
Okay.
That was originally doing it. And then they dropped it. And then she says, but I'm going to get this movie. And I was like, all right. So
I got the role, but
I went back to my life, and that was one of the reasons why I wanted to pursue music,
right?
Because you can control music. I used to take my guitar back to Washington Square Park. I'd play in the park. I'd play in the subways. I'd do little coffee shops in New York. In fact, the coffee shop on 17th Street and Union Square back in the day. Sunday nights, they used to have this live music thing called a coffee grind. And I'd perform there with my little trio. And I was just going to be doing my music. And 8 months later, I got a call, and they're like, the movie's back on, and there's a new director, and he'd like to see you. And I was like, I'm busy. I'm recording an album. I ain't got, like, y'all ain't going to pull me out to L.A. again and try.
Hurry up and wait.
And I was like, I was convinced to go again, and I went back. And it's what's crazy about that, like, I can't imagine that happening now. Like, I'm up for a movie, and the director falls out. A year later, another director was like, we're still interested. That was crazy. And I had an attitude. I was all indignant. And I go out there, and the second go round, I got the movie the second time. And that's when I met, actually, I don't remember if it was the first time or second time, but a lot of people auditioned for that. Tupac. I
didn't know Tupac.
Tupac auditioned.
What role did he audition for?
They had us doing all the roles.
Yeah.
Like, Leon was already locked in to be Reese, and everybody else was like, they were mixing and matching. But Jeffrey Wright, Tupac, Omar Epps.
And you're seeing these actors.
Yeah, but Tupac had just done, like, Juice.
Right.
And Pac was funny because he didn't want to take his nose ring out. They were like, can you take? He was like, nah, fuck that shit.
That's why he didn't get the role?
Yeah.
Allegedly. Right.
But I remember meeting Jeff, and I was like, yo, that actor is dope. Like,
I read somewhere that you were a little bit intimidated by.
No.
Okay.
Nah.
You weren't intimidated by Jeff.
I'm not intimidated by actors.
Okay.
No. But I was. I
understand that.
I admired it.
Right.
I admired it, and it's a healthy admiration. Like, oh, he's good. Like, game recognized game, so you know when you're dealing with an actor that
that knows his shit.
That knows their shit.
Right.
So yeah.
Love that movie, man.
Yeah.
Love that movie. Yul Brynner, right?
Yes, sir.
Yul Brynner.
Yeah, man. Yeah, I mean
that was a big movie too, man.
A big thing, that man.
I think like 65 million. I think.
Why a blood clot?
So,
man.
How did that change?
100.
Well, hold on, Malik. You said earlier that you grew up wanting to be a bobsled.
So what's crazy about that? Yeah, it's a couple of little cool facts. The song, so like enough people say no, they can't believe Jamaica. We have a bobsled team. We are the one Derice and the one Junior, Yul Brynner and the man Sanka. Passes out the whole Jamaican sprinter.
You wrote that, right?
I wrote that.
Yeah.
You know, me write that, man. So I wrote that, and so in my audition, when they were like, my screen test, they were like, all right, you guys just want to race, celebrate. I pulled that song out that I had already written.
Yeah, already had it.
And they loved it, and then it ended up in the movie, and ended up getting a record deal with Columbia,
which is
as
crazy.
a result of that. It ended up on the soundtrack. Then ended up doing.
So you getting money now?
Oh yeah,
you're starting getting money right now.
Money.
How was it with John Candy, man?
John Candy was great, man. He was great, man. He was a sweet man. One of my favorite moments, first hockey game, professional, was with John Candy.
Okay.
Calgary Flames took us to see that. He promised to take us salmon fishing. Unfortunately, he died after the movie.
Right after the movie, right?
Yeah. He did one more movie, Wagons East, after that, and died. But kind man, like had a chef cook us dinner, taught you how to be a classy professional. Because Candy at the time, he had really blown up. He was like 350 pounds at the time, and people were shitting on him. Like, I remember when the movie came out, the Canadian newspaper was like, we can't understand what Candy's going to be in this movie. Either he's going to be the bobsled or the mountain. Like, just that's killing him because his weight. But he was really gracious and, made these CDs and collected music for each one of us and handed us, like, when I think of your character, I think of this, and gave each one. And just, say things like, make every scene count. We're only as strong as the person seen with you. And so those kind of classy ways of being gracious and respectful and generous.
I remember growing up watching Second City TV, which to me was the funniest shit I've ever seen. How do you keep a straight face around somebody that's as funny as Candy, man?
But in that movie, he was playing the straight man, right? Because the movie, the first time they were doing it, they were going to do it as a drama. And I think it was not Ed Harris. I think it might have even been Ed Harris who they wanted to be the coach. And then when they went with Candy, it took a whole new direction. But yeah, it was just, I was just happy to be there. To your point about wanting the bobsled, I remember we were in Calgary and it was at the top of the bobsled run. I got my Jamaican bobsled uniform on. I'm looking around. I'm like, yo, I'm at the Olympics. Because I always wanted to go to the Olympics and I always wanted to bobsled.
Once again, visualization.
Yeah, man. And it manifested. I was like, oh, shit.
That's crazy, man.
Here I am.
At the Olympics. At the real Olympics.
At the real place where they did the Calgary Olympics in 1988.
What's crazy to me is a lot of your visions have become reality.
Yeah.
But what's even more dope to me is you tell me about how John Candy was coaching or teaching or lending gems. And then we look now and what you were doing on Empire with these young kids.
Yeah, you got to teach, man. Plus, I just naturally have the spirit of a teacher. Like, I started young, and I believe that you have to, man. I mean, you have to.
How do you transition? I mean, I know a lot of things. I mean, we could talk here for hours, man. How do you jump into New York Undercover? Because that was big, man.
So New York Undercover, what's crazy about that is so I leave, I go off from City Kids Foundation to do this movie, Cool Runnings. And what's crazy is the night before I went to go do the movie Cool Runnings, first of all, I left January 17th, 1993, almost 10 years to the day that I got shot.
Right.
And my plane got delayed in Dallas, and I arrived in Calgary on January 18th, 1993, 10 years to the day. And you
notice, like
and I'm aware,
aware.
Oh shit, 10 years ago I got shot, and here I am doing this movie. And like, I used to think about getting shot, I got shot. I think about bobsledding, now I'm bobsledding. And so I'm aware that these things are manifesting. At that time, I'm reading books like Seed of the Soul. I'm reading books like Conversations with God, and I'm reading, 7 Spiritual Laws of Success, and understanding how all these things work together in my early 20s, right? And so I do the movie in January to March of 93. It comes out the fall of 93, like September, October. Between then and March, in 5 months, I booked two Miramax films, an AT&T commercial, an episode of Law and Order. I did Dougie Doug's show, Where I Live. And while I'm doing Law and Order, I get a call to audition for Cool Runnings. For New York Undercover.
Right.
And I'm literally shooting the episode over in Chelsea Piers. And we're doing a scene. I break for lunch. I go into a little office. And I remember Andre Harrell was in the office.
That's right, because that was his baby in a sense,
well,
right?
The show had come to Andre. He fell in his lap, but he wasn't a TV guy.
Right.
But he had his deal at Universal with Uptown Records. The show was originally called Uptown Undercover.
Right.
And they originally wanted 2 black dudes. And then they were like, nah, we can't do that because it's too black, too strong for 1994.
Of course.
And so let's go black and Latino because they already did black and white with Miami Vice.
Right.
So they went black and Latino. And before I go in the room, I hear Andre's voice saying, yeah, Malik Yoba is the low man on the totem pole. And I don't know what
Word?
I don't know what the hell that
Andre
meant.
was talking shit to you?
I don't know what it
talking
meant.
About you, right?
I don't know what it meant,
right.
But he was right. Like, who was I? I had done a couple of movies and like no
a
one
Disney movie.
No one who knew who the hell I was.
Right.
But they really, and even that Law and Order role, because you asked about the big break, and I always make the connection between my life of service and how that service served me later on.
Right.
So when I auditioned for Law and Order, I originally went in for the role of this like thug. And because I played the tough guy in Cool Runnings, everything right after that was always like the tough guy. I did these 2 movies with Wayne Wang and John Carl Esposito and Harvey Keitel and all these people, William Hurt, and I played like a thug.
What movie was that?
Smoke, the movie Smoke. And then we did Blue in the Face, which was all improv. Harold Perrineau was in that. And so I go in to I do to audition for New York Undercover. Andre makes that comment, and I go lay it down and I get the role. But it was the same person that had cast Cool Runnings, that cast New York Undercover.
Right.
And so, and so it just always goes back to like, oh, what I was about to say is the girl that was casting Cool Running, Law and Order, Gabrielle, she saw me come in for the role of the thug. And she was like, you know what? You should read this other part. And the other part was basically, if you ever saw that old school episode of Law and Order that I did, I was playing a baseball player who accidentally kills his father because of some gambling debt. It was loosely based on Michael Jordan.
Michael Jordan, right.
And so because I played a bigger role, they saw more range. And so, but Jackie already knew, like, I think this kid could be J.C. Williams. And so she was convinced that would be the case. And so that's how New York Undercover happened. And then next thing I know, my whole life changed.
Did you know that show was going to be that big, man?
Hell no. I didn't know what the hell I was doing. I mean, I didn't know. Nah, man. I was just, like, happy to, like, book a TV series, you know. And I thought it was cool, but no, we didn't know.
How did it change your life?
Oh, man.
Like, did shit spiral a little bit?
Yeah. I remember Jackie Brown saying, there's no such thing as 1 to 10. 1 to 9. You go 0 to 10.
0 to 10.
And New York Undercover was that kind of thing. I mean, we shot spring of 94.
Right.
Show premiered fall of 94. We shot all over New York City, and at that time, I had Cool Runnings as a credit. Some people had seen it, but Michael DiLorenzo had done Fame and head of the class, so we'd be shooting around, and people would see, oh, that's that kid from Fame.
That show was so revolutionary on so many. I mean, just the, like you were saying earlier, the fashion. Like, y'all tapped into the Tommy Hill and the Walker Wear and the Naughty and the whole nine.
No, and that Russell was in the red with Fat Farm.
Russell Simmons.
Yes.
Right.
Fat Farm
he was in the red.
Money.
Right.
And then I used to wear that shit on New York Undercover. He ended up in the black because of New York Undercover. One day, Dana Hill, who used to work for him, shows up at the set with a Bulgari watch. Like, yo, Merry Christmas. I didn't know anything about product placement. Right. Like, if you were black, I was wearing your shit.
Right.
Like, Bad Boy, I remember Puff, like, yo, man, thank you for wearing my shelf. Of course, man. Walker Wear,
was Carcanine still around?
Any young black Nietzsche, if you were a designer,
was Cross Color still around at the time?
They were just kind of fading, but
did Fubu make it in? Fubu made it in.
Any designer at that time, I would wear your joint because I just felt like we got a free platform to promote other people's shit.
ACA, remember the
like.
He said ACA.
No, AACA. Remember AACA?
No, I know. I'm just saying you're bringing me back.
I just seen a dude the other day in Brooklyn with a brand new
one.
They're back. They're fucking back. And then the whole music thing, man. Yeah. Like whose idea was it to like have the segments with the music and the stars and
I don't know where that came from, but I would imagine with Andre with Uptown that probably generated there, but I don't remember.
Right. That shit is amazing, man.
Yeah, it's crazy.
And like I said, the power of Black Hollywood in the 90s, man. Mm-hmm. You know, I just wonder what happened, man.
Well, it went on to the Englishman.
It went to the
now,
Englishman,
if you're
right?
Black, that's what I do, man.
What's iconic, man? Tell us about
Iconic 32, man, is back in December of 2013, I was working on a reality show, funny enough, that was all about these kids refurbishing cars and selling them off for scholarships. So back to helping people, right? Everything I do is kind of rooted in that. And my girl, my homegirl, J Love Calderon, introduced me to this cat, Sergio Morales. And he had just left his job a month earlier at Weber Shandwick at a PR marketing firm. He's a creative director. We started talking. And he said that he, had this idea for a firm that, would do branding, and I was like, oh, I'm doing that. I just had done the web series based on my film What's on the Heart to Men that Rhonda Cowan, when she was at BET, she gave me that opportunity to come up with something for BET.com, and I came up with a web series, and that got me into brand and entertainment. And Gillette was a sponsor, and then as a result of that, I started doing stuff for United Negro College Fund, and then American Heart, American Cancer Society, AARP. So I started like developing web content, and I met Sergio, and he told me he wanted to start this firm, and I was like, yo, man, I've been wanting to do my own, and brand entertainment firm and work with, because I understood strategy and marketing, and just as a result of my days at City Kids and my days, back in the day at City Kids, we had a Saturday morning TV show that I helped pitch.
That's right,
that
I
show,
remember reading
with the
about
Muppets, and I was a
Jim Henson, right?
with the Hensons. I was a co-musical director for that. That's what Donald Faison was on that. Dule Hill was on that
That's
show.
crazy.
And so I understood a lot about the business side of things. And so Serge and I met the next day for breakfast, and we've been rocking ever since. It's been 15 months. So Iconic 32 is, he came up with the name, which is essentially, we help companies or individuals reach iconic status or maintain their status. The 32 was a nod to his favorite basketball player in high school, which is Magic Johnson. Exactly. And so simply Iconic 32 does branding and strategy work for companies, helping them look at their corporate responsibility platform. We promote social good through pop culture, so using film, television, art, music, sports. So we do that, and we're building out an e-commerce platform. So if you go to iconic32.com, you can see some of our fashion products.
I like
right
the
now.
sweatshirts. I like the hoodies.
Yeah, the hoodies, sweatshirts. Portions of our proceeds support the Common Commons Foundation. That happened because I was hosting Commons Gala in Chicago last year, and I loved what he was doing around the arts education piece and sort of holistic approach to watching, taking these young people from like elementary and middle school all the way through college. And I said, you know what, let's partner and make sure that when we sell proceeds of, we can support you. Did a similar thing with Anquan Bolden. I've played in his golf tournament. I love what he's doing in his community.
You nice at golfing?
I used to be real nice, but I don't play as much
Right.
anymore. So I don't even talk shit anymore. But I used to let my game talk.
Right.
I don't really have it
You
anymore.
just go hang out on Top Golf now?
Yeah, I hardly even do that, man. But there's some Anquan's tournaments coming up next month, and some other ones I'll go down and just enjoy them. But like the screening we did last night for Empire, benefiting the Prison to College Pipeline program. So we just know that in this space of urban culture, in this space of pop culture, you can be in the give a fuck business in a different kind of way. You can make caring cool.
I've always believed that, man.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think that also speaks, we're going to wrap this up, but I think that speaks to your longevity. I mean, it's not longevity, but it is longevity.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people still aren't around. People that, well, where's Dougie Doug, man?
Doug actually, the light.
And I'm not trying to shit on him, but
no, not at all. Doug, he's been doing a little stuff here and there, but it's like the Andre 3000. I hated all the tension, so I ran from it. That lyric,
Yeah.
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I'm sorry with T.I.
Right.
Like that's that realness. Like, yo, staying relevant in pop culture is crazy.
and it's exhausting.
It's,
right?
it's exhausting, bro.
Right.
And the fame monster is real.
Yeah.
Anonymity is a beautiful thing. You
It
lose
is.
it and you can lose your mind. And so for me, I think that the difference maker has been I've always been rooted in service. One of the best moments I've had in a long time was I was leaving the Meredith Vieira show recently. And while I was doing the interview, she was like, you know what? My daughter was so excited that you were coming on the show. She's coming out of college. She's got a big job coming up at some marketing firm, but she went online. She researched your company. She loves what you guys are doing. She'd love to work with you. And I was like, all right, have her contact me, staying, blah, blah, contact. I'm leaving 30 Rock. I walk downstairs. I hear somebody go, hey, Mr. Yoba. Turn around. It's Al Sharpton. And Sharpton's like, yo. Actually, he didn't say yo. Maybe he did say yo.
Maybe he did. He said yo. Al Sharpton said yo.
Yeah, but he was like, man, I just had Lee Daniels and Danny Strong on my show. And I told him, y'all don't know who y'all have on your show. He was like, y'all need to stand behind Malik. He was like, that boy has been out there for years. For 30 years, I've known him. He's been on the front line with the same message since he was a kid. He's going on and on and on. bigging me up around my community work. He had no idea what was happening with my character on the show.
Right.
He just felt he
Which is
needed
kind of
to tell.
crazy.
It was crazy. So I'm listening to him, and I'm like, "Word, you said that?" And he goes, "Yeah, I told him." He's like, "I don't know y'all, but I know him.
Right.
And he's been out here. Y'all are new on the scene."
Right.
And I was like, "Damn." And I said, "Well, let me tell you something." And then I told him what happened with the character. He was like, no.
He didn't start campaigning, did he?
Nah.
Don't get Al Sharpton.
Nah, but I'm doing
on the set of Empire.
Nah,
B.
but I'm doing his show. His show airs the same time that you guys release this.
Nice.
So I'm doing Politics Nation, but it was just one of those moments. And I told him, I was like, this guy right now, because you have no idea, because it's been hard, man.
Right.
I knew that my character got killed a week after the show premiered.
Right.
2 days before it got picked up for a second season.
Right.
So for 2 months, I'm walking around
Holding
while
it
the
in.
whole world is like, "Yo, congratulations, yo! I'm so happy for you." People coming out the woodwork, literally from Malaysia, from Australia, from New Zealand, from Africa, from all over the world. Like, "Yo, I'm loving this show. I'm so happy." Blah 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 blah. And I'm like, I'm not even.
Y'all don't even know.
I couldn't even.
Y'all don't even know.
I couldn't even enjoy the success.
It's like
of
a marriage of like getting divorced before you even fucking celebrate.
Yeah, exactly.
But at the same time, are new roles like flying in now?
I won't say new roles are flying in. Honestly, bro, like, it's been 26 years since I did my first movie. And, all of us that started back then, you'd be like, "Yo, I'll win an Oscar by now, and I would have done this and that." And this experience, I really feel like God has been like, all right, so, and it's interesting because I mentioned God, we talk about Buddhism, but my journey has brought me to Christianity. In my, like, 33, I had on the road with Dave Tower with those plays, I had a literal come to Jesus moment where the world stopped. Like, literally, we're doing a play. I'm at the Beacon Theater, show sold out. There's
Black Jesus or white Jesus?
I've been to Ethiopia. I've been to Lalibela. I've seen the Black Jesuses on the wall built in like the 11th century in those churches. So I know about a long time ago what things look like.
Right.
Because I've seen it
yes,
in
sir.
ancient places. But I had a moment where there's 3 conversations going on in the audience. And for 12 weeks, I've been asking Dave, like, "Yo, can you please teach people about the protocol of theater? Please stop yelling at the stage. Stop talking to me. Stop acting like you in your living room. Like, there's etiquette." And so 3 conversations are going on in the theater. And I turned to the audience. I was like, "You know what? We can't do the show like this. And I'm going to go backstage. I'm going to drop the curtain. We're going to start all over again. And hopefully y'all let us do it the way it's supposed to happen." And I went back. And I had been on tour with all these quote-unquote Christians that were backstabbing and gossiping. And so it's kind of like a joke.
Right.
I said, and I wouldn't let Dave call it a gospel play. I was like, "You have to call it an inspirational play because I'm not Christian." But I went backstage. And I was like, "Jesus, if you're real, I need to see your face right now. I need to go on the stage and hear absolute quiet. If there's absolute quiet, I will follow you anywhere." I went on stage. You hear a pin drop for the first act. And on that tour, I had some really deep experiences in the spirit and subsequent to that. And so for me, with this particular show, I said at the very beginning, what felt like a reunion became a funeral. Because there's so many pieces of it that seem to align perfectly, right? Leah Daniels, Butler, who's Lee Daniels' sister, was on the casting team that cast me in Cool Runnings 22 years ago. And so I ran into her last year while I was doing a film in L.A. And there was a young actor on the film, Giovanni Watson, that I thought would make a perfect kid of Taraji and Terrence. I read Empire, and I read for the Terrence role, right? I read the script first, and agent said, "Well, we need a name." And so I was like, really? They playing that game, right? We need a name. And it's a trip because, of course, I know Terrence from, it was Hustle and Flow that changed his whole life.
Exactly.
And we had dinner right before he did Hustle and Flow. And he was like, "Yo, I'm about to do these little.
I'm going to do
these
this little Hustle and Flow."
Nah, he was like, "I'm about to go do these little independent movies. As soon as they're done, I'm retiring."
I'm out of
It was
this.
Crash and Hustle and Flow, bro.
Wow, yeah, remember
he got
back
paid
to back.
$6,000
Back to
for doing
$6,000.
for doing Hustle and Flow, changed his life.
Crazy.
So that's the crazy nature of our business.
Right.
And all of a sudden, Terrence is a name, right? And so everything I've done for 20-something years, I'm not a name. And Lee, to his credit, when he even had me come in the room for Empire, he was like, yo, can I just apologize to you right now? He's like, I'm sorry I even have to put you through this. Like, I know who you are. I know your name. Blah, blah, blah. You are a name to me. And at the end of that moment, he was like, I'm testing you for this, man. And ultimately, he was like, this is your role if you want it. But his sister, Leah, was part of the original crew that cast me in Cool Running. So here I am coming full circle. So the whole time, it was like full circle, full circle. I got Iconic 32 now. So we can really do a lot of the marketing and the strategy around the social good that all this show can be. And I thought, like, this is the perfect scenario, the perfect storm. All the like, but the whole time, like I said, something just didn't feel right for me, because it felt like there's a level of opportunity and honor that comes with when you feel like the entities involved are really creating the moments for you to share your gifts fully.
Right.
That never happened.
Right.
And so, but in spite of that, I was like, let me still do all these other things and offer myself. I told Lee from jump, like, I will be your confidant. I've been down this road many times. This is your first foray into television. Whatever you need, like, let me be, like, lean on me, like, and I don't necessarily want to be the full star. I'm down for a good ensemble at this point in my life. I have kids, I have other responsibilities. Pay me my money, let me do my work, let me contribute, but I don't need to be number one, right? Happy doing that. But it didn't work out that way, right? So it was crazy because it's like, of all the people, not that I want anyone to lose their job, but really? This dude? Like, really? Like, so it's not being written for you, and you can't really contribute fully, and everyone knows it, and everyone's looking at you like, yo, really? Why y'all having me?
Why y'all sitting on a Panther there?
Yeah. It's like, I felt like Marshawn Lynch in the Super Bowl. Really? We on the 1 yard line. And
don't you hand them the ball?
Yeah, you really? Okay. So fine. So what's happened for me, this whole experience, especially because it's been so culturally successful, it's really made me look at how I want to move forward in my life. So Iconic 32 has created amazing opportunities. We're in the app space. And I'll send it to you guys later. If you Google Malik Yoba Zinn app, ZINNAPP, it's the first app that is, you don't have to download from any app store. It lives in the cloud. It's a black-owned technology company that's producing this thing. It's a platform to let you aggregate all of your online presence. So anything you have, all the content you want to put,
Twitter,
all
Instagram, Facebook,
all in one spot. So you have to send separate links for everything. It's searchable on Google, like I said. So it's an amazing piece of technology that works across every platform. So we're helping to bring that to market. We're developing a couple of TV shows, some in the reality space, some digital stuff. We've got a sneaker collaboration going on.
Okay.
We've got.
Can you tell us for whom?
It was a young woman. JJ Gray is the line. She's a young. She's only been in business less than a year, but she wants to. She has the same DNA as us. Like, I want to help people. I want to save the world. So she came to us through Kat, a friend of ours, Rick out of Queens, and so we're doing a collaboration with her. We have huge opportunities across a bunch of industries, doing exactly what I've done since the days of City Kids. So in some ways, it's like I feel like I'm going back to that meeting I was at Greenpeace, and going back to where I started, but with a lot more power, a lot more influence, a lot more awareness, and because at the end of the day, the people that I admire the most are not actors. There's actors I do admire, but Richard Bransons of the world, the Jack Welch's of the world, any self-made person that has had a dream and has built it from the ground up into something that really can be of great service to the world. That's always been the goal. It's not been, I want to be the most famous actor in the world. I'll take it. I love acting, but it's just one of the things that I do. So, are a lot of roles coming my way right now? I mean, this is all just happening, right, in the last few weeks. But
what a fucking whirlwind, man!
It's crazy. But the show we're developing, which is a drama, which I think is tight, and we'll pitch it for next season. But
good luck with that, man.
Yeah, and if it's the right thing to do, I'll do it. But I'm enjoying building a business, and to me, we joke, we're like Iconic 32 will be like Google, but not Google, because it's proven itself to be smart. The thing that is most fascinating is when you create a culture that people respond to. Like, we put images out, we put words out, we've done event, we did a release party with Common at a pop-up here in Soho with the sneaker company Bucket Feet. It was a collaboration. It was part like art auction, part listening party, part like community gathering, and that's how we do things. We did an event during All-Star Weekend where some of the amazing artists like Loban Hamilton, Kehinde Wiley, his art is on Empire.
Yeah.
Took it off
all over Empire.
Yeah, but we didn't work with Kehinde, but we worked with Loban. I mean, I see this amazing work on the set, and I'm like, yo, who is this dude?
He has an exhibit right now at the Brooklyn Museum.
Kehinde does, yeah. But we were able to auction off some of the artwork and provide resources for a group called Smile Design Gallery. We did a collaboration with a group called Athletes for Art and Renaissance Store. So I got my hands on a lot of things.
You stay busy, man. My last question, man. What's been your favorite role? Everything you've done, man. I know you.
There's been a few.
You did Martin Luther King.
King was an amazing honor. It's funny because when I saw Selma, there's been, I think David's probably the 15th or 16th person to play King since he died. Because I think when I did the Lifetime movie, I was like number 13.
The movie was
Betty and Coretta. Yeah.
Betty and Coretta.
That was the greatest honor, like being able to play King, and it was a small role, but I spent a lot of time getting it right.
And acting with
Angela Bassett,
who you had seen
when I was 16,
which is crazy.
Yeah.
Like, how was that, man?
Oh man, there's so many. I got so many of those stories. One of the craziest stories like that is Felicia Rashad. When I was 16 years old.
These are all beautiful. Like, really, you're talking about some beautiful women.
Yeah. I've had the pleasure of working with some beautiful women, but 16 years old, Felicia Rashad, between a matinee and evening performance at Negro Ensemble Company, she's in her dressing room. I walk up to the door. I'm to her left. She's facing the mirror. She's putting her makeup on. And I'm asking her all these questions about making it as an actor and doing this in the world, blah, blah, blah. 16 years later, I'm 32. I'm doing a show called Bull. She's playing my mom. And I was producing an event called the Great American Father's Day Celebration at the House of Blues in L.A., and it was all about fathers performing and celebrating their children. So I had like Aaron Neville play with his kid, and Jonathan Butler with his kids, and Sinbad at the time. And I asked Debbie Allen who directed one half of the season finale of Empire of this season. I asked Debbie to co-direct that show with me. So Felicia said, "Oh, we're working on Old Settler down at this theater, at this studio. Why don't you come down and meet me on stage?" And when I get there, they're like, she's in her dressing room. And I go to her dressing room, and she's sitting in the mirror, putting her makeup on, and I'm standing to her left, the exact same scenario that I was at 16 years earlier with her.
That's crazy,
like,
man.
Crazy,
That's crazy.
like full circle moment.
Yeah.
So, favorite role, man. I always go back. I mean, Martin Luther King was a great one, but I think J.C. Williams doing New York Undercover, because I was 26. It was my first TV series. I shot in New York. I shot in Harlem. I got to represent young black men in a way that I hadn't seen them represented in film or TV. And so often I would see things, man, I'd be like, yo, that ain't how you do it. Like, nah.
And you're a New Yorker. And you're a New Yorker. You're not
so
some cat from L.A. or from Colorado that's here trying to perpetrate the fraud.
I took a lot of pride in that, man.
So you were correcting, like yo, Harlem cats don't talk like that.
Yeah, everything.
Brooklyn cats don't.
Back to, like, yo, the patent leather Adidas that I wanted when I was in high school that I didn't have. It was when I played J.C. Williams. I wore them. I remember Michael DiLorenzo was like, "Yo, what are you doing?" I was like, "Shut up, you don't know." Like people who know what's up with this. The Timbs, the toothpick, the army jackets, all of that was like great pride. And I was a young father. Of a lot of roles that I've liked, and that's one of the most unfortunate things about Empire for me. I can't say that Vernon Turner was one of my favorite roles. Right. It would have been only because you fighting just to like, can I be the real dude? Right. Like in my head, it was the perfect setup, but the execution of it was like
wartime or peacetime consigliere.
Both.
Yeah, definitely.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
One more question, man. Well, I got two more questions. Advice to young actors right now in 2015.
While you wait and keep creating, man, like learn to write, learn to direct, learn to produce, learn to raise money, learn to market, learn the whole game. Do what them kids was that Money and Violence on my boys that did the block. Create your own. Create your own, man. Yeah. And the technology is here. The
technology is here, man. There's no excuse.
But learn how to really do it.
Yeah.
Like be a cinephile. Like study like the films that you like. Look at who was the director of photography. Look up their work.
Learn your craft.
Go on IMDb. Understand what lenses do. Different formats. There's rules to this. Yeah. Learn the craft. But that's it, man. I would tell people just keep creating, man. And, to be an actor means that you're sitting around waiting on a job. And that's whack.
Yeah.
Like,
that's always been whack.
That's always been whack,
yeah.
Man. So that's what I would say, man.
And I love, man, taking it up to the present, man, with social media. I love that you don't play on social media, man. I'm talking about that situation that happened, I think it was like a year ago, man, where somebody was shitting on you and you invited them to your privates, man.
Yeah.
SMD?
I try.
SMD somebody?
I try to be a good man of faith, but I'm human, and people will go in, and I've learned to not do that now. Now I'm better.
That
particular person,
right?
She was going hard for a while
on you.
So
Jihad.
Yes.
Like how long has she been going?
It was a while.
Right.
Like. And
every time you look in your timeline, it's like this chick again.
Yo, like don't think that you have the right just to say what you want,
right? Because
it's social media.
Yeah.
Very rarely do I get those people, but she caught me on a bad day, and I hadn't learned how to block somebody on Twitter yet. Because had I learned how to block, I would have just blocked it, and I would have kept it.
That
moving.
mute first, you mute them, then you block.
Yeah. But she kept going, talking trash, and I was like, yo. You're gonna get it, and then I learned how to block her after. I was a little salty, but doing this corporate work, and you want to keep a good image.
Yes.
I want to continue to evolve and rise above these things, but every now and then people just think
you can still get it.
Yeah, they think they can. It's crazy. It's crazy.
You're a good guy, so I think once a week a good guy got to be an asshole. Right. I feel that way because there was nobody to respect you.
Yeah.
Listen, man. Where can our audience find you, man?
Definitely you should follow on social media. So obviously at Malik Yoba on all of my social media. But
Instagram, on your Instagram?
I'm on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. But definitely follow Iconic 32 Curators of Progress as well. And you can find me in the hood near you.
There you go. Cheer. Malik Yoba, man, thank you so much, man. This has been a great experience, man.
Thing,
Congratulations again, man.
Thank you too, man.
Yes, sir.
You too, morphing into different parts of yourself.
There you go, man.
I don't know your story. Fucking guy.
Well,
this guy's a fucking asshole. Hey, what are you
gonna do? This guy went from Wall Street
to jail to
the Combat Jack
That's what they do.
Well, a couple other steps too.
That's what they
do.
But
before we go, I want to say one thing I really like when you talk about what was your best part you played. For me, I look at you like as somebody like you. You played the best part. Because real talk, I mean that. Because just doing research, watching you over the years, I love diversified people. I love people that teach people to be diversified. And your biggest success to me is your heart. Because you have always given, I read all the outreach stuff. So having you on here, I know is not only important for young black men, but just for young people really trying to learn. and understand of what you have done, and that means a lot, because even today, like, you know, I haven't made it yet. I'm still trying to move it. But but I mean is I'm always want to give back, and you're a reason for that, man. I salute you for that.
But let me help you out, man. You know, you gotta just do from where you are. You know what I mean? People think you gotta quote unquote make it, but what does that mean?
No, I know that. I'm saying like you don't have to be successful or you don't have to be rich to give back.
Yeah, you don't have to be rich.
And
you just want to pay. You just want to pay your bills.
And, exactly. And you were doing that before even all this shit. So I salute you.
But that's where it starts, though.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
So salute for that, and thanks for the vodka water.
Shit, that's what you do.
Exactly. Look at that. He's doing it.
Yeah, it's right. Do what you do. This fucking guy, you know, and talk to the guy.
Give him some Russian. Give him some Russian.
And I'm gonna give you a Russian straight out of Brighton Beach. Okay,
there you go.
This guy Malik Yoba is a fucking incredible guy. He's got 2 cars, one Mercedes Benz, BMW, fucking. He's got a girl. I buy a Louis Vuitton bag of beautiful Borscht.
I like it. That's good.
Internets. This is Combat Jack. I've been working out in the gym. I'm tired of fucking having man titties. They're going away. Let me tell you something. I'm really happy because as these man titties melt into solid steel chesticles, I'm going to be rocking a sporty, fresh Combat Jack t-shirt. Now, these t-shirts are available for a limited time. It's the logo tees. We've returned them. This is a limited run. You got about 18 days left. They're $25. Great cotton. Great for your chesticles. Women, let your tetas bounce in these too, mama. Listen, go to teespring.com/Combat Jack Show. Get these Teespring t-shirts. $25 a pop. Support the movement and look good. Make your chest feel happy. Hey, internets, you know, don't ever let them tell you that the Combat Jack Show does not love and respect the women. As a matter of fact, as I've said recently, I'm so humbled and amazed at our growing women audience. You know what I'm saying? When we first started Combat Jack Show 5 years ago, it seemed like this was a sausage fest. It was just dudes listening to us. But I'm so humbled by all the women that continue to follow us on social media and support the Combat Jack Show. We got a special guest in the building in commemoration of Women's History Month. We got the legendary Miss Shanti Das in the building.
What's going on?
Now, Shanti, how are you?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm doing great. Welcome to the Combat Jack Show.
Thank you. It's a real honor, really, to be on the show.
Thank you.
I'm proud of all that you've accomplished in the last 5 years.
Thank you. I want to refresh our audience's memory and to our younger audience that don't know who you are.
Sure.
You've done some legendary things
in
the music industry.
A little bit.
You've carried a certain city on your back.
No doubt.
Talk about that.
So I'm originally from the A,
Yes.
Atlanta, Georgia. I went to Syracuse University. I actually was on radio at Syracuse. I had my own college show, and I helped to promote and break a lot of artists there. So I was on my grind at Cuse. People thought I already just really working in the entertainment industry.
I didn't know you went to Syracuse.
I did.
I went to Cornell.
89 to 94.
I love Syracuse.
Derek Coleman,
Yes.
all those guys.
Yes.
Stevie Thompson. That's my
Was
crew.
Sherman Douglas still there?
Sherman was there my freshman year.
Yep.
I had season tickets to all the b-ball games.
Okay.
Because I'm a sneakerhead and I love sports. So
Okay.
that's a whole nother interview
Right.
for another day. I'm a girl that likes sports and know her game. But anyway, so I got my experience and networked in college and started working at Capitol Records in 1991. I was a sophomore. So I landed a job actually getting a check my sophomore year. And then I met L.A. Reid. The rest was history. I got hired right out of Syracuse, making $30,000. I thought I was rich. He hired me as promotions director. First record I ever worked was Players Ball.
Wow.
From Outkast, which went on to become, a huge record. And we launched the album Southern Playalistic, Cadillac Music from that. I did all the promotions for Outkast and did their marketing. Helped break Goody Mob, worked with Usher in the early
That Platinum
days.
Goody Mob.
Yes, sir.
Ed Woods, remember that time we was at this club?
Soul Food.
We was at, what club was we at? We was at some club, I think it was Atlanta, and we was at some club and the DJ kept saying, about to play that Platinum Goody Mob.
Back in the day?
Back in the, when,
Probably
right,
the Warehouse.
right when I think it was the Warehouse.
Either the Warehouse
Yes.
or Kaya.
So anyway, continue.
Yep. So Outkast, Usher, TLC went
Yes.
on the road, Crazy Sexy Cool. Did marketing and promotions for them, Tony Braxton. So a lot of the artists I think that you love from the 90s, I had a little something to do with.
I mean, but look at Atlanta right now. Like, look at it as being the kind of like the center of what's going on right now.
We were like the Motown of the South, if you will. Because, LA really was the man who kind of spearheaded everything for that city and helped launch the careers from the production side of Dallas Austin, Jermaine Dupri, and those guys ended up having labels after that.
Right.
So, we were the big guys in town, and it was a great time for us. And L.A. Reid and Babyface sold the company. I moved up to New York City when he replaced Clive Davis at Arista, and I worked Run DMC while I was there. The Outkast Project, of course. I was the bad boy liaison, so I got down with Diddy and his crew.
That must have been fun.
It was a lot of fun.
That was an amazing time, right?
It was. 112, all those guys, Total. Big used to call me Shoestring. So, like, I know.
Why did he call you Shoestring?
Because Shoestring was my on-air name at Syracuse. And then when I figured, being a female in the game, and I'll say this to all the ladies listening, like, I felt like I needed to kind of sometimes to divert the attention from guys trying to holler. I mean, it's a social industry. I'm not mad at guys giving me compliments, but I really was trying to get my paper.
You want to be serious. You want to be
and
considered
I wanted
serious.
guys to respect me when I walked in the room.
Right.
The same amount of respect, and not just because of my ass or, whatever. I was told
Your
I had
assets.
one back in the day.
Right.
But anyway, so I worked really, really hard, and I just kind of used that name as like a nickname back in the day. And so after Arista, I moved on. Donnie Einer hired me as vice president of marketing at Columbia. Then he formed Sony Urban Music. I became senior vice president. And then Sylvia Rohn hired me at Universal Motown in 2005 as executive vice president. I was one of the very few, I think, females on the marketing side to actually achieve executive vice president. I mean, a lot of people have that title now, but I like to think I was at the forefront of that.
You broke ground.
It meant something more back then.
Exactly.
But when did you get past the 30,000 point where you felt like you made it? Now you're starting to hit some bigger numbers now. Because I know you weren't making 30,000 with Sylvia Rohn.
No. It was a couple of big boy Benzes, by that time.
Big bodies.
Yeah, no doubt. I had the corner office, it was a real check.
And then you made a change.
I did.
You made a change in what year?
I left Universal Motown in 2009.
Okay.
My mother has Alzheimer's, and so I wanted to be a little bit closer to her. And just a lot of stuff was happening in my life.
Like what?
I had some health issues. My uncle died, and I wasn't really passionate about the game like I used to. I used to come to work, and I used to sit there and like just be on a computer, like surfing different sites and looking at myself like, why am I here? And I just lost it felt like I lost a little bit of my soul. And, at the time I loved Sylvia, but we were whack at Motown. We didn't really have a lot of stuff that came out, unfortunately. No fault of hers necessarily. It's just for whatever reasons, our stuff wasn't popping.
Right.
But I did have R&B Live in New York City. Okay. From 2007 to 2009.
I remember that.
Me and two of my other partners had like the hottest showcase for R&B music. So that kind of kept me hot in the streets.
Right.
But not necessarily at the company. And I was like, man, what am I doing? I've gone from intern to executive vice president. And I just felt like I had reached that ceiling. So I quit.
But let me ask you something. How scary was it to come to that decision to quit?
Oh, God. I mean, that was my life.
Right.
This was something that since I was a little girl in high school that I had like worked so hard to achieve this dream, but I wasn't being fulfilled anymore. And I just had to do something different. So I walked away, moved back home. And I had a little bit of a nest egg, but, I ain't have as much money stacked as I thought I needed.
Because you had them Benzes.
No doubt. I was wilding out way too much. The Giuseppe's, the Chanel. I had to have every hot handbag. And ladies, if you're making money out there, it's good to wild out and enjoy yourself, but you got to put some money away.
Okay.
So I did all of that. I lived that lifestyle, right? So I went back home to Atlanta, and I wrote a book called The Hip Hop Professional. And it was about how I went from intern to executive vice president. I touch on a lot of issues for women, like compensation in the workplace. Oftentimes,
or the disparate compensation.
Absolutely. Right. I felt like I was being underpaid for my male counterparts, and I had to fight for that. I had to go out and find good attorneys like the Ed Woods and Reggie's of the world.
That's right.
And, really get what I thought I deserved. Back in the day, I just felt like I faced so much discrimination as a female from the men with compensation, getting blatantly hit on.
The harassment.
Yes, the sexual harassment, people I work with grabbing my assets, literally. And I had to check them.
Right. Any lawsuits? You ever filed any lawsuits?
Never. None of that.
Right.
Because I believed in handling my business and moving on from it. Because I wanted this just as much as the next person. And so I wasn't going to let somebody strip that from me. if I felt like I was violated that much and I needed to take it there, I would have. But
Right.
never had to deal with that. So I touch on a lot of those issues in the book. I touch on a lot of the, women hating on women in the workplace because the cattiness is real. The jealousy, intimidation. It's just crazy how women, for some reason, I don't know why they get intimidated by other women of power. Instead of trying to help somebody up and lifting as you climb, they just try to keep bringing you down. And I had to fight through all of that.
Now, when was your book published?
The first version was out in 2010, but I relaunched it last year.
Okay.
And I added 7 new chapters. So it's the Hip Hop Professional 2.0. It's currently on iTunes and Amazon. It's on my website,
How's it done?
thehiphopprofessional.com.
Is it independent?
Yes, I
Okay.
self-published.
Congratulations.
Thank you. I also put out another book, the 1, 2, 3s of networking. It's a little pocket guide. So I'm speaking at a lot of colleges.
Public speaking right now.
Public speaking. I'm speaking at Dillard University. I've done Princeton,
Wow.
Syracuse University, NYU. Getting ready to do a school in Detroit.
How's that speaking engagement money?
I love it.
Yeah. How's the money?
You can make, right now, and I'm not even like represented by a big agency,
Right.
but I'm getting 3 to 5 stacks of school
Nice.
for an
Shit, I
hour.
need to go back to school.
And, I would like to think I'm, out there really giving some great information. But to me, that's the norm,
Right.
and a lot of other people are making way more money.
Of
It's
course.
just, but it's a hustle.
Right.
I'm the promotions person. I'm the agent. I'm booking myself. I'm
Marketing,
doing it all.
and
I'm
you're
marketing
the
it.
talent.
Absolutely.
Now, what are you doing? Like Ed Woods has been telling me that you're doing something fantastic for Women's History Month.
So I'm about to launch an empowerment T-shirt line.
Okay.
And I'm also doing a lot of community service work, helping homeless women in Atlanta, homeless moms and kids.
What do you have to say to these young women that feel that they're talented, but to compete, they have to be eye candy. They got to show their assets. They got to almost degrade themselves to be considered or taken seriously.
Yeah, I think it's unfortunate. I do think that you're going to have both ends of the spectrum always, right, in life. There's always going to be good and bad. But I just want these women to find a balance in their life and just know that you don't have to do that.
Right.
And I really feel like, too, some of these younger executives coming up or, ladies trying to get into the industry, they feel like they're the artist, too. And I'm like, you got the game twisted. You're on social media and it's like, you're not the artist. You're the person behind the scenes, but they're scantily dressed and feel like they got to be up in the club turning up 24/7. And I'm like, you got to earn that,
Right.
that right and that privilege,
Right.
and sometimes this generation, they feel like they deserve it or they're entitled. And I just want them to know, like, hard work still, has to go into the game for you to be respected. It's okay to like be,
It's
comfortable
okay to be
in
sexy.
your skin.
It's
and
okay to
sexy.
be
I'm
sexy.
not saying that.
Right.
I'm single, still trying to get me a husband. I let the girls out sometimes. You got to do that. And that's okay.
I like it.
You got to do that. But at the same time, like, I know when I step into a room that I'm going to get the respect because of the work that I put in.
Right. Where can the Combat Jack Show audience find your book?
At www.thehiphopprofessional.com.
Okay.
And one last thing I want to tell you about, I'm about to launch an initiative also called Silence the Shame. And it is to bring awareness about mental health, suicide, depression
Yes.
in the African American community. In recent episodes, you've seen it dealt with on Empire, with one of the cast members being bipolar. Being Mary Jane just touched on it with suicide with African American males. My father committed suicide, and
Really?
so did my best friend. And
How old were you?
I was 7 months old, but I suffer from depression.
Okay. Clinical depression.
And I'm open, I openly talk about it now, but I've been able to endure. And I just want people to like try to start peeling back the layers of shame and removing the stigma and just talk about it if you need help.
What are some of the symptoms that one has to look at to really start considering if they need assistance, mental health, and the whole nine?
For one, when people are just sad all the time, they are straying away from their normal routine. They don't want to be around friends and family members. They're not happy about anything. Some days I don't even want to get out the bed. And literally, I'm just covered up in the covers. It could be sunny and 75 outside. All my blinds are down. And it's certain things and pressure points, that could trigger it. It really just depends. But I tell people not everybody wants to go to a therapist, but I encourage that. But it's certain things that you can do also. Being outside, vitamin D is just a great therapy for you, getting that sunshine and that sunlight and opening up your mind and your heart. You've got to get out of the darkness. There was one time in the industry where I contemplated suicide, and I talk about it in my book. But I just fight through it. I'm a spiritual person. I pray my way through it. So whatever it is you do, just talk to somebody, talk to your friends. Don't shut people out.
And did you have a therapist? Did you eventually seek out?
Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah. That's why I first forgave my father in 2003. I was living in New York City, and I finally sought therapy and counseling, and I was able to forgive him for doing that.
You know, I'm glad that you're bringing this up. About 2 years ago, we were having our cast at the Combat Jack show was bigger, and it got to a point where there was just a lot of tension, particularly me and this guy. And we had an episode where we brought in a therapist.
Really?
I want you to hear that.
Wow.
It's called the therapy
that.
episode. We brought in Dr. Maya Pettiford, and she kind of walked us through triggers and expectations.
I'm going to post that because I'm getting all my stuff together.
No, I'll definitely send that to you.
I would love to. And then you look at what happened with Shakir Stewart, good friend of mine.
Yes.
You know,
Shakir, man.
Chris Lighty, I know it's still a lot of questions out there about that situation, but as far as we know, he took his own life.
And it's funny because I never got diagnosed, but I remember, the period before I left the industry.
Mm-hmm.
I probably was depressed because I wasn't happy.
Absolutely.
I felt stuck in the game and having to maintain my professional image. Like, how is a lawyer going to walk away from this and do something
and
else?
And so many people hide it, right? You could be smiling, but just dying on the inside.
Yeah.
I've been there.
Yeah.
I mean, over these last 5 years, I'm not going to sit here and say it's been all a bed of roses. It's been difficult. But, I'm just glad I did it. I think everything that we go through in life, there's a cause and an effect, and it was a reason, right? There was a greater end to the means of doing what I'm doing, and I'm just the happiest, quite honestly, I've ever been in my life.
I know the feeling. Internets. I can't really hear you. This is our friend Edwards.
No. I'm just
Edwards in the building.
No. I'm not allowed to talk much, but I'm on timeout with Combat Jack.
Exactly.
But no, I just want to add is very interesting because that's actually how Shanti and I have known each other for years. We've dealt with each other. We worked on each other side of the table with artists, but we actually connected when I don't know, was it a year and a half? And I think I just called her, hit out the blue, because I was like, I'm sitting here trying to figure out my next move going in, and I'm watching her moves, and then basically was like, what, we need to do something together.
Now, Ed, were you a little depressed after the Son of a Gun?
Now, I wasn't depressed because of Son of a Gun. It had nothing to do with that. It had to do with a lot of other issues that dealt with a series of, it all started when my father passed away, never addressing that issue, and then dealing with the issues that went around then after that situation. But it was more about, for me, I'm one who's so loyal to people, and you give your heart and soul to something, and I never told the inside story of really why I was so pissed. Because when you finance somebody the way I was doing and helping somebody along and feel like you being backstabbed and you're not able to deal. See, I was just always dealt with from a different thing. If I got beat out of something, okay, I'm going back at your jugular. And I felt like restricted. Like I couldn't go the way I really wanted to go at it. So you kind of had to let it go. But then there was other things that I just basically was honestly burnt out with the whole situation of being in the industry. I just felt like at the end of the day, it wasn't the same to me. And then after a while, you sit in a room, you made enough money, and then all of a sudden you're like, hold up, this shit ain't gonna last forever. And then you bounce back and you say, you know what, I'm gonna tear this motherfucker up.
Yep.
And that's what I'm about to do. But at the end of the day, that's what it is. Sometimes you gotta go hibernate and come back with the vengeance. And
There you go. Shanti, I'm glad that you stopped by.
Thank you so much for having me.
Please let us know. Like I said, don't hesitate. What I'm really learning, like we had a great episode with Malik Yoba.
Mm-hmm.
A couple of months ago we had Kevin Lyles on the show.
Oh,
some of the best episodes of I don't want to say some of the best episodes, but some of the episodes that resonate the most with me are the ones where people talk about service.
Absolutely.
And at a certain point,
it's something we gotta do.
Yeah, regardless if whatever you have or whatever you don't have, you got to pay it forward.
And sometimes service is just like giving up your time, right?
Yes. Well, I think that's the biggest thing.
We don't have a lot of money. Everybody doesn't. The average, 1% that are billionaires, God bless them. But everybody else, sometimes it's like just when that person needs you.
Yes.
Or, we all have so much going on in our daily schedules. But if somebody calls you that really needs you, just be like, you know what? Fuck it. I got you.
Internets, man. You know what it is, man. Dream those dreams and then man up and live those dreams, because a life without dreams is black and white and the universe flows in technicolor and surround sound.
Wow.
Illuminati!
This episode of the Combat Jack Show was produced by Jonathan Mena, executive produced by A. King and Chris Morrow, and recorded in the Engine Room Audio Studio in downtown Manhattan. This is an official Loudspeakers Networks production.